Goodness, what is going on, Omniverse? Jesse Hernandez here. I'm starting a little bit early because I got to watch day one. If you haven't seen day one, it's available for the replay. There's tons of people that are watching it right now. But I realized after watching the replay, I did a miserable job of helping you, the live viewer, and the reviewers, people watching the replay, kind of helping you understand what to expect from the Decentralized Conference. So it is day two, and I'm gonna let you know who we be talking about. And while I'm doing that, please, if you're out there in the Omniverse, give a shout out, leave a comment, let us know you're there. We got DJ Hootie Hoot telling us he's ready and he's only here for Thomas LeMay. No, he didn't say that. Appreciate you, Adam, man. Thank you, brother. He wrapped us up yesterday in a very killer fashion. And so, I'm going to go ahead and kind of do my best to show you what we got coming up today. And we have first on deck is going to be Mr. Thomas LeMay talking about what's in your backpack at 1:30 p.m. Central. Miss Jennifer Famous Lady Lacey is going to be talking to us about authentic conversations. Then at 2 p.m. Central, we've got Mr. Felipe Engineer Manriquez, who is going to be doling out some Ninja Scrum to help us with our days. And then we have Miss Heather Armandi at 2:30 p.m. This is all Central Time. If you haven't picked up on it yet, we're going to be rolling on like 30-minute blocks of time. Miss Heather is going to be talking to us about respect for people. And after Miss Heather, man, we got just a whole lineup of rock stars here. We've got Mr. Davis Hambrick, co-host of the Lane Foundations podcast, and he is going to be talking about how to lead at an early age in construction. We're not done yet. We still got two more. And then we got like the baller, Mr. Jason Schroeder, who's going to be coming on at 3:30 p.m. And if you haven't experienced his energy or his boot camps or his YouTube post or his LinkedIn posts, be prepared to be rocked, because that man, we did a OG live stream together. And man, I was fired up after that damn conversation. Maybe I'll drop it in the comments as we go on today. And then lastly, we have Mr. Walker Lott, who is going to be talking about listening, learning, and leading with questions. So that's the lineup that we have for you today. I'm going to be the facilitator, the button pusher. Hopefully you'll have questions and comments. Not hopefully, you best be having some questions and comments for our speakers as they're speaking. Also, another cool little thing I want to kind of prep y'all around. We're going to have this little QR code here, and that's going to take you to Plus Delta so that we can get your feedback. Let us know what part of the session or the conversation provided value to your day and the time that you gifted us with. And also, if you have ideas about how we can improve this experience going forward, leave that in there as well. I'm going to tell you right now that every one of these presenters today thrive on feedback, and ideally it's actionable feedback. So don't worry about hurting people's feelings. We want it. We like it. And also you can leave your feedback in the comments. We're going to have some links coming up in and out. And also this whole Decentralized Conference is sponsored by my first book, that is Becoming the Promise You Are Intended to Be. And I let the cat out of the bag yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and do it again today, because you're spending time to hang out with us at the Decentralized Conference. That book is actually available for purchase now. I also have a blog. I'll drop that in the comments so that you can access the blog, and that one's like at no cost. The book, you'll have to buy it. But anyways, the book is a compilation of 20 stories in my life. And what's the significance between the book and the people that we're going to be hanging out with today? Well, each one of these people have contributed into my life in a deep and meaningful way, such that they've helped me become comfortable and build courage around being more authentic and sharing new depths of vulnerability. And because of that, my quality of life has increased, which led me to writing the book, mostly prompted by Lee Crump, with the idea that it could help people, help people. We'll just leave it at that. Anyhow, enough of that. I am going to bring our very first speaker to the stage, Mr. Thomas LeMay. Thomas, you mind if I embarrass you just a little bit?
Whoa, watch it.
Well, I just want to let people know the influence and impact that you've had in my life, man. I met Thomas LeMay. We both worked for the same company a while back, and he onboarded me. So I got to spend a few days with him in San Francisco, and he kind of gave me a behind the scenes look at how he did business and kind of supported the business unit. He had so much confidence in me that he allowed me to represent him in a pretty significant and serious meeting. I wasn't sure how I did in the meeting because I didn't know anybody. I was just a new guy who 2 weeks earlier, I was a plumber, right? I was a trade partner. And the feedback, Thomas, that you gave me, that you shared with Bob, really, that was like the foundation of my confidence, or breaking away a lot of the insecurities I had. So I'm grateful to you, Thomas, for doing that and continuing to be a part of my day-to-day, my friend.
Yeah. People who've been managed by me, or at least work with me, they know that they know that Jesse story because they've been in that. And I think we're going to talk about kind of some reasons why that's important to do that. But the project you're talking about is Terminal 3 West in San Francisco SFO. It's an active project now. This is a pole plan with designers. So you had structural engineers, architects, all kinds of people. And it was big time. And it was a big key moment. And dude, you knocked it out. Like, it was like, we were like, damn, this guy's legit. So yeah. So thank you. We weren't trying to mess with you, but kind of also were at the same time. But
yeah. I had no idea, but it was awesome, man. Thank you for that. And so you're going to be talking about what's in your backpack. Look, you already got some love. Miss Jennifer Lacey says, looking forward to elevating my game with the rock star speakers today. Thank you, Jen. So I am going to disappear from the screen. The stage is yours, Mr. Thomas. Folks out there, comments, questions, dump them in the chat. And before I jump off, Thomas, questions or thoughts before I disappear?
No. So my one request, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. The presentation, unlike the one traditional guy with the slide deck, but this content builds upon itself. So we want to get all the way through it. And then we'll leave some time at the end and just blast me. Ask me anything. I will try to answer it. And if I don't get to answer it, I'll try to message later in the chat. So you ready?
I'm ready, baby. Here we go. It's all you, big dog.
Let me share my screen. Here we go. All right. So we're going to talk about what's in your backpack. And the idea here is unburdening. That's a key word, and it's lightening the load for better outcomes. And we're going to talk about some cool things. Herbie's Hike. It's a case study in a book. I'm going to talk OODA loop. So all your fighter pilots out there, or wannabe ones that are in movies. I think, though, Tom is an actual pilot. Overcoming fear. We're going to talk about it. We're going to go right at it, but it's overcoming. Observational learning. I got a great case study. You're going to crack up. People will really like it. And I hopefully you bring it into your conversations next week. And that's take action. So let's get into it. So Herbie's Hike. This series of chapters 13 to 15, Jesse and I did a series of podcasts. You go to the Learnings and Missteps channel on Apple Podcasts or wherever you consume it. This is episode 3 in there. We talk about this hike. So let's just break it down for you. The hike is 10 miles each way, single track trail through a forest, thick undergrowth. So you can't go around people. It's a single track, single file. And the trail is marked every 10 yards. So there's a couple things to note there, that you're not going to get lost. As long as the kids follow that trail and stay on it, they'll get there. So they want to camp overnight and then go back. So there's a leader, and that leader of this Boy Scout troop is Alex Rogo. And he starts out and he's like, let's use some historical data. Let's walk 2 miles an hour, which is about how fast an average person walking. And my watch tells me it's almost 8:30. And if we break for a little bit, we should get to the arrival point at 3 o'clock. So he uses that initial plan and he sets it with the boys. So, and then there's Herbie is the kind of the main character. So let's frame Herbie for a second. Herbie's a human Boy Scout, but he's a different shape. He's a little bigger, a little heavier than others. He has the same function. He's walking at the trail at a slightly different pace, but he's also bogged down. He's tired, he's hot, he's heavier. And then all of a sudden, the other kids are starting to blame Herbie for the source of their own delay. And this might start to sound familiar in our construction world. And then Herbie immediately feels stress, and he tries to improve his pace by extra effort. So he'll run a few steps, and what that does is it raises his heart rate, and he gets tired, and then he slows down. So he's working at different rates because of the stress. And also, that's the only thing he can do. He's in a single file line. So first thing we got to do in this situation is use the OODA loop. Now, I'm not going to talk really long about the OODA loop. Definitely go check it out. It comes from a general in the Air Force, and they use this a lot in the military. If you're a pilot, you use this. And it's the idea that you use a series of observations, you orient yourself, you decide and you act, and you can make these decisions very quickly. And so the underlying thing is, number one, you set a baseline. And this is important in my role. I'm the quality leader in the Southeast for DPR construction. And we try to get to baseline all the time. We try to do it in schedules, we try to do it in mock-ups, we try to do it in design, constantly getting to baseline. But baseline is normal or expected state of a given environment or situation. And it's crucial that you set that. You have to say, it's 10 miles, single file, and this is how we're going to roll. You have to set that baseline, because that way, the second part of the baseline is you can start to see anomalies. You can start to see Herbie. And you have to acknowledge that there will be anomalies. And the idea with acknowledging that there'll be anomalies is like, now you can accept that there will be change, there'll be variation, and now I'm going to be on the lookout. So this next part, they train Marine soldiers to do this, the United States Marine Corps, and they call this the hasty search. But you also do the similar behavior when you're driving your car, because you'll look at lights, you'll look at your rear view mirrors, you might look at your side view mirrors, you might even turn your head, but you don't sweep. So the hasty search is you look at those four gentlemen there working, looks like New York City, and you start to say, okay, I'm going to scan, but I'm going to scan in very specific places. Look at their feet, look at where they're standing, look at where their hands are at. And once you do that, you can perform a detailed search. And safety professionals do this very well. But I wanted to teach people that this is how you do it. You don't just go out and walk. You look at very specific things. And you systematically, when you stand there, you look in a 180-degree arc. So everything in front of you forward, and then you walk forward 50 yards. That's how they train Marines in combat to do this search. This is also a way you can pursue a job. So now you can start to see really focal points that, hey, there's a change in elevation between those two gentlemen because I can see one hard hat is lower than the other. I'm going to zoom in on that. What's up with that? Is there a fall hazard? And then two, I'm going to start to see clutter on the ground. So that looks like parts and pieces of fall guards being installed. So that the next thing you can start to look for is like, okay, they've removed the fall protection. Are they tied off? So you can start to see those things. But if you were just walking around, you'd be like, oh, these guys are so lazy. But you have to kind of zoom in on that. Like just what Jesse was saying, zooming in and zooming out. Here's the thing. We are terrible at deciding what to do. The human brain is a supercomputer, and it's so smart it outsmarts the body. So the couple things that you have to acknowledge. So these are anomalies that you have to overcome. Limited time. I wish we had more time. Elon Musk, the Pope, Dalai Lama, the president, they can't buy it. There's not enough money. It's ever fleeting resource. So you have to take that into consideration. We can't spend all kinds of crazy time and resources devoting to all these super detailed searches. We have to be really efficient. Sometimes we don't have authority. We don't have keys. We don't have access. We don't have status. We don't have certifications. Maybe there's not enough in the budget. So in trying to make a decision about a thing we have no authority about, the decision isn't ours to make. It's the people with the authority. So we have to elevate it to that one. So that sometimes that'll take stress away. Sometimes unclear choosing criteria and too much information, those go hand in hand. This is chaotic, messy work environments that we work in. And it's like, you have to take that into acknowledge. You can't ever get away from any of these because it's just the real world. So I wanted to start to talk about heuristics and bias, but yesterday, these two gentlemen who I dearly appreciate, and one of them I work with, they were talking about this concept of incompleteness. And if you think about construction, we're always in a state of incompleteness. Is the system that we are living in, that we're constantly packaging design packages or trying to get something out to bid or trying to get things into budget, and nothing's ever complete. And that's the world we live in. But the thing about incompleteness, it's not complete. You feel, Charlie was telling me this morning, he texted me, he says, you can feel it in your gut. And that's very true, because your body and gut, your brain gut connection has those senses. And when you feel that, you feel this sense of incompleteness. And that's three things that we'll kind of talk about here in a little bit is interdependence. That's things that like a roofing system that's made up of 7 different components. Each one of those components are just individual. It doesn't become a roof until they're all installed and complete and tied in. Feedback loops, they were talking about that. We'll talk about some of those in the Herbie hike and in emergence. It's like you can't ever see the complete system. It is physically impossible. It's like looking at a tree. You can't see the tree and the roots at the same time. Otherwise, you're just looking at a dead tree if you can see the tree and the roots. So we have to also recognize fear. So I put kind of some of the major categories of fear. And these are fear. And Charlie and Adam were talking about uncertainty. And they even talked about it as an iceberg, right? So, but conflict, hiding, discomfort, reluctance, trying to preserve harmony. I know Jennifer Lacey's going to talk about that a lot. So we try to avoid conflict. Complex systems. If you work on a project site with more than 5 people, you're in a complex system. So we're overwhelmed. We're urged to simplify things. We have a preference for familiar solutions. What did we do on this thing the last time we did this similar project? Right? We do this all the time. We pull out this historic data, and we pull that historic data because we are afraid of risk and then rejection. And this is mostly individual because it's anxiety, it's self-doubt. But you have this constant need for validation from others. So to overcome it, it's just the things that we were talking about in UDA. You have to understand it. You have to acknowledge that, hey, we're in a complex system. There's uncertainty. There's rejections. I need to get access. We need to do an observation. Hasty searches, detailed searches. We have to do these things. We have to understand that we're in a world of incompleteness, and we can't just go on historical data. We have to actually go out and say, hey, we're in the honeymoon phase of this project. We need to really get after it, and let's make some really deep relationships now, because when it's complex and it's chaotic and we're behind the schedule, we don't need to try to build the relationship then, because that'll be really difficult. And then having courage is the only thing about it, is facing fear. You don't have to not have fear. You just have to be able to face it and take action. So there was a study. It was in 1961 at Stanford University. You can kind of see in the photographs, there's a lady and there is a male, and they would either beat up this doll that was weighted on a bottom. So it was not human form, but it definitely had a human character on it. and they would show the video of either beating up the doll or treating it nicely, or getting scolded for beating up the doll. And what happens, the children then went into a room, and then what they did, the kids did the exact same thing. They either beat up the doll, because this is a room with other toys, basketballs, all kinds of things, and they were shown repeating that. And this is kind of an interesting story. It's definitely more or less a controversial study, and it's from the 60s. But 4 things that you can kind of take away. And this is really important when we talk about some of the things that Spencer was talking about, definitely what Jason Schroeder is going to talk about. Number 1, attention. 2, retention. 3, replication. And 4, motivation. And so how do we go back to the hike? We got to do that observational learning, but not beat up the doll. Let's do some observational learning. Let's teach these kids how to do hasty searches and detailed searches. So they do this. They do a simulation. And if you've done the Parade of Trades simulation, or you want to, this is a great thing to do. So go and check out the Parade of Trade. Dr. Tomlin and UC Berkeley has a really good white paper. Just go Google it. And what they did was they rolled dice. And if you can immediately see, if you're looking at the graphic, it's like, oh, I rolled a 1, and I see that there's 6 in a process step, but it only moves 1. So instantly you can see, hey, we got a bottleneck. We have a production issue. If the goal is to try to get all these red diamonds through a series of processes, and this person is rolling a 1, I'm going to zoom in on that, and I'm going to go perform a detailed search. So they teach the kids this. This is great. I'm going to kind of briefly go over this. But what they did was they taught the kids that to challenge in the motivation thing. They said, challenge the status quo of 3.5 matches per turn, or challenge the status quo that we need to walk 2 miles an hour. And if you don't challenge it and you lose, you have to do extra dishes. So motivation is not only reward, there's a consequence. And I think you have to have both. We have to have both. So what they do, and I'll kind of summarize this. I put the full kind of paragraph in here, but what they did was they say, but Herbie's the slowest one. And the idea, the hike is to get there together. And this is Alex to the group of kids. And he's like, we got to get there as a team. So he lines them all back up. And he's like, the kids start grumbling. He says, Alex, can't we put somebody faster up front? And he says, you have to figure out a way to let Herbie go faster. And remember, they anchored it. They said, hey, challenge assumptions, challenge the status quo. So one of the kids in the rear, he said, Herbie, what's in your backpack? It's an anomaly, right? It's not, Herbie wasn't the anomaly. It was the things in his backpack. And it, like, they pull it out. It's like a can of spaghetti, box of candy bars, jar of pickles, 2 cans of tuna fish, all kinds of stuff, and a large iron skillet. And what happens was they take the things away. So we're talking about unburdening. They didn't say, hey, Herbie, you're fired, or Herbie, here's a delay letter, send this to your parents. What they did was like, let's take the load off and let's spread it out. That's a key moment. And that key moment didn't happen unless the leader, Alex, said, Herbie, come here. I'm going to take action, and I'm going to be assertive. I'm going to say, take your backpack off when we're looking at it. I respect your privacy, but we also have a larger goal to get into it. So the key takeaway is, number 1, understand fear. 2, observe. Hey, Herbie, what's in your backpack? 3, heuristic. None of your business. Don't be polite, right? You can be nice, but we can't always be polite. If you think about this in mental health, if someone said, yeah, I'm okay, but they're really not, we have to have courage to get them the help. And that takes overcoming fear. And these children learn that through that dice game. So if you think about the work that we live in, if we're only sending out these Hollywood metrics, and then we blast people with emails, or we sit in meetings all day and just bog down people's time so that they're not productive, or we say, we're going to give you all kinds of these really ineffective workflows. And if this is the way, and it's like, man, it's like, what do you want us to do? You know, we've been doing this all along. If we're not challenging that, we're designing those workflows and then we're punishing people for not being effective in these super punishing workflows. So we have to constantly challenge that. So everything's on the table. Here's one, for example. So we talked about that observational learning, and this is the whole point, as you're seeing, and thank you, Jason, for putting this on the web. But this is a TAC plan, and you don't have to know much about a TAC plan, but if you understand the pitch, that means the angle that the work is happening, and you notice that all of those angles are exactly the same. So if one of those angles changed, you knew, hey, I need to do a detailed search. What's up with that, right? So if you do that hasty and then detailed search, you can start to see those things. So the whole point, the entire point of doing TAC planning is to respect people, because you're shooting this into their brains and you're getting their attention. Another one, here's Joe, by the way, lean builder. Retention. We do this every single day, daily huddle. We talk about issues. We talk about constraints. We talk about the work. We talk about the work coming up. We talk about what the owner is telling us, and we do it every day. And if we do this every single day and we don't hide anything, say this is all the facts, it takes a lot of blame away. I've definitely been in on both sides of this spectrum, and I'll tell you, this is how we work every single day. But I wanted to say, Joe, thank you for having this picture, having the bravery to put this up on the web. It's not often that we do this. Another one is, once we do that retention, we don't stop in the trailer. We don't stop in our huddle room. We take it out. So you'd see that picture. None of those hard hats are the same color. None of the vests are even the same color. So you know it's not a stage photo. This is an actual walk. So when we walk out on the job site, if we're only walking with our own people that share the same vests, the same hard hats, we're not doing any replication. We're not actually doing the behavior that we just talked about in that daily huddle. So we have to do it. And how do we do it? It looks just like that. And then motivation. And this is the thing, motivation. And we talk a lot about like super clean job sites, but look at that temporary air solution. That had to be a budgetary line item on that project. So somebody had to agree to pay for all of that protection, all of that stuff. And not only, we don't always do that, but I tell you, if you work in that area, there's discipline involved, because instantly if someone is making a mess, you don't have to do a hasty search. You can see it, and then that mess screams at you. But we have to get to that level. We have to get to that level of cleanliness. So that takes purchasing of materials. It takes tactics to do things. It takes running temporary exhaust scrubber, negative air machine, those kind of things. But when we work in that situation, oh, it's so nice. It's so nice to work in those situations. Same with this idea of not doing the chemical toilets anymore. We have to get away from that. The whole point of it is it's the same thing. It's both a reward and there's consequence. So the consequence is, like, you make a mess in a super clean and super well lit and air conditioned bathroom, you don't work here anymore, right? Look, if you can't respect that, you're not allowed to work in this situation, right? So when I started as a surveyor, and we would go to different job sites on break based upon the quality of the toilets. We might even go to a gas station because it was so nasty. So it really does motivate people saying, oh man, this is a really expensive line item. These crazy mobile toilets, air conditioning, do we really need that? We have to get to a point where it's like, that's not a decision anymore. It's how we work. So how do we motivate people? This is how we do it. So I want to leave it at that. Jesse wants to come up and start asking questions. But hopefully the idea was like what you're going to see in the rest of these presentations. I wanted to give like a little like insight into how it really works. And then definitely go try those two things. Talk about the Bobo the Clown study, and then also talk about Herbie, of course, right? All right. So I'll stop
There we go. Well, first of all, well done, Thomas. The preparation that you put into it, I'm super, super appreciative of. And then we also have like this glamorous person that just invaded the screen.
I know. I was like, I got to step my game up.
Just so you know, you like have set the bar. I'm going to tell everybody, like, mine is not at that level.
Yeah. I really wanted to like talk about brain science, but like when Adam was talking about systems, I was like, no, that's it right there. This idea of we live in this incomplete world, right? And it's so incomplete we feel it in our soul. And I think a lot of that really living in that incomplete system, if we don't acknowledge that, it can really like do some damage. And there's definitely a cost to that. If we don't acknowledge that, hey, yeah, we don't have all the answers, and no, we don't have complete a budget or even the whole schedule, and it's not that you're in trouble. It's like this is just the current state, and we have to work through that. So yeah.
Oh man,
were there any questions?
I got a couple. I have a couple, but I want to recognize. So we got Adam says, "Great job, Thomas. Love you, brother." We got Ernest, my brother, says, "That's the ticket. What's up, Ernest? Thanks for supporting." I'm not sure if you saw this, Thomas, while we were going, but we got Mr. Darren Waldron coming in from Switzerland, baby, international. Looking forward to the conference. Thank you, Darren, for joining us. And then, of course, Buddy says, "Wait a minute, there she is."
And we have an office in Zurich, so
no way.
Check us out, yeah. DPR, yeah.
DPR, there it is.
Charlie Dunn definitely has a presence over there more than me. I hang out in the South.
Nice.
But yeah,
so we do have a question on the board, but I also, this experiment, this decentralized conference experiment, we're learning things. And so you're also streaming on your LinkedIn page right now. And so I want to give a shout out, but it doesn't commingle them over here on my end. But we got James Gable. I can't bring it to the screen, but so Henry Nutt said, "Knock it out, Thomas." James Gable says, "I love this, Thomas LeMay." I just want to make sure we're showing some love and recognizing you folks are out there supporting. Thank you for that. And so, Thomas, here you go. Adam's got a question. He says, "What do you do if there's nothing in Herbie's backpack?"
You don't stop. So remember the hasty search. If Herbie's the slowest and there's nothing, then it's Herbie is still not the constraint. Like we have to keep continuously. How do we unload? Like maybe we have to change the plan and we're not going to go 10 miles, right? Yes. So hopefully the answer is like, it's like you can't, whatever we do is punish. If you see that person is not trying, you have to motivate them. Right. So and motivation comes in two ways in my mind. That's willing and able. So you have to be willing and able to be motivated. So if you're willing, like Herbie was, but not able, we have to change our tactic. Now, if we're able but not willing, that's a motivation thing, right? Then we have to maybe institute compliance, right? In that instance that, hey, this person is willing but not able. So we have to perhaps get on a cause of correction or course correction, those kind of things. But if the person is not willing or not able, they shouldn't be on the team. So what Alex should have done out of the gate was like, hey, we need to do that hasty search before we even started the hike.
Yes.
Right? So I know I hang out with Ranger Winning, Mr. Brian Winningham. He's a ranger, so the first thing they do before they go out on a hike like this, they do a layout of all their equipment. They lay it out. Now it's probably way more complicated than what I'm describing, I'm sure. But before they even load on an airplane, they do all kinds of checks. So hopefully that answered your question. Yeah. If there's something that's really wrong with our plan, we have to stop and say this is not the time to go.
Yeah. So homework, and I have a question. One, the homework is if you could please respond to Felipe's question in the comments after we transition to Jen, and I'm going to be selfish and ask my question instead of Felipe's. So in terms of what's in your backpack, you and I we did the collabo sessions on the goal. We actually both also had the privilege of speaking with Davis and Walker on their podcast about mental health. And so my question to you, Thomas, is what is the connection between lightening the load on Herbie and the current state of the mental health condition or mental wellness condition in our industry?
Yeah, so we talked about it there. So float over to the session 3, but I'll say it right now. It's like we put people in a position like Herbie, and the only thing that Herbie can do is work harder. And that is the complete reason that Herbie is in a stressful situation. So if you think about it, if you're a foreman, or if you're a project engineer, or if you're just even anybody, you can be an architect. If the only thing that you can do is work harder and no one's helping you out, then you have to ask for help. And if there's no help, like to be given, you seriously like think about changing your environment. But that's super hard when you're in a mental wellness crisis because you're so tied up in your brain, right? It's like I was saying, like your brain is so powerful, it'll trick the body, and it definitely will. So what it starts to do is it starts to medicate itself with food and not getting sleep, or all kinds of like other vices like tobacco and alcohol and drugs. And so it's just all these coping mechanisms that we were talking about. But if we can't even cope, the outcomes start to get really, really ugly. And the statistics from the CDC that study our industry, it's 48 out of every 100,000 construction workers will take that, take their, die by suicide. And I work for a company that's 10,000 people. So the math is really simple. It's 4.8 people, right? So that's 4 Thomases.
Yeah.
So we have to combat this with a energy that is higher than what the current state is now. So it's like we have to say, hey, Herbie, I know you're a private person, you have freedoms, but this situation is very important to this whole team that we have to look in your backpack. We have to be assertive to that. So if we don't do that, I know this, and we all have these stories that people will either die or get really ill or hurt their bodies, right, because of their ego or just their mental state. And we have to get past that. So how do we start doing that? Do some hasty searches, do some detailed searches, and let's roll.
Gangsta. Thomas, I love you, my brother. I appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and hand the baton over to Miss Jennifer Lacey. Thank you, sir. Jennifer Lacey.
Hello, how are you?
Oh man, if you can't tell, I'm in Disneyland right now.
I can tell.
I said it yesterday when I was talking to Joe. It's like I'm behind the scenes with the Marvel comic superheroes because I get to hang out with all of my heroes, man. What'd you think about Thomas? His presentation.
Well, it's Thomas. So anytime I'm around him, I get smarter, and I do better because of just how he speaks and how he talks about things. So I think I like intentionally when we did the poll on when we could present. I'm like, okay, when is Thomas's best time and when is Felipe's best time? And I picked the time that would be between because I'm like, I want to be surrounded by this magical stuff that we do. So, but I love the transition from what Thomas talked about to what I'm going to talk about, because a lot of that burden is in our heads. And so how do we get people willing to, share what's in their backpack? And how do we get people willing to understand the pressures and the burdens that happen inside our head where everyone can't see them? And for me, that is having those authentic conversations.
Girl. And you and I that's all we have is authentic conversations. And before somebody starts getting jealous about this being a no BS,
just screenshot this right here and you're good to go.
I am going to leave the stage.
Okay.
It is all yours, girl. Okay. Folks out there, Jennifer Lacey is going to be talking to us about authentic conversations, comments, shout outs, questions. Bring them on because she likes to hide and we don't want her to hide today.
I got to find the screen though. So let me do this real fast.
You got to do share? Good.
Yeah, let me find. Entire screen. There we
go.
Wait,
hold on. Check. Did you share to there's a button that says share to.
Wait, let me get out of here. Cancel. Let me hit all these things just a second.
Yeah, no. So, folks, while she's doing that.
There and there. Done.
Welcome to the De-Centralized Conference. Let us know where you're checking in from. There's a little clunkiness because this is a brand new experiment. for all of us. And part of the decentralization is that we are streaming from my YouTube channel, but also each of the presenters have the opportunity to stream to the platform of their choice. And so this way there's broad access and broad sharing. Okay, there it is. I see you up on the screen.
Okay,
Yep.
just one click, just one little extra click, so we're good. So let me find my screen again, just a sec.
Yep.
And there and there. Let's try this and see if it works.
Boom. All right.
We good?
Hey, you're good. Take it away, sister.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, I am so excited because we're going to talk about authentic conversations. And the way I'm going to talk you through these is through like pulling back the curtain. And I'm actually going to talk through 6 different ways that I create and cultivate these conversations in my everyday kind of my role in my job and the way I show up with my teams and stuff. So I'm super excited about kind of showing you those examples. So with that, I'm going to start. Let me get my click here. Okay. So before I dig into these examples, I want to kind of kick it off with the conversation around authentic conversations. So when we think about authentic conversations, it's like showing up with our true self and maybe getting, being willing to get a little bit vulnerable and things like that. But I think we know we can't just show up and go, okay, everybody, take your armor off, take all the hurt and all the things that have happened to you in your past, throw them away, because today we're going to have authentic conversations. It's going to be amazing. So I don't know if that works for you, but it has never worked for me. So you can't just start with that. But when we start thinking about authentic conversations, for me, it comes back to 2 things. It's how do we create a community that we have, it's a safe place. It's a safe place for people to share. It's really a safe place for them to confide in people, maybe some real problems they're having, and almost a place for them to feel cared for and feel like other people can relate to them. But also, to me, it's about connection. It's about, are we making it about us or are we making it about them? Is it personal? Is it something they can like attach to go, I understand that. I feel that. Man, I can relate to that. But also, do we help people see how the things we're talking about in the room can then be taken out of the room with them, and then they can go and do it in their space? And I think we forget when we go into meetings and we're the facilitator and we're kind of in charge of like, moving all the things around, that if we make it about us, we make it about dictating and telling people what they need to do, then they're going to leave and they're going to probably go out and do what we ask them to do, but they're not owning it. And they're not finding that one thing that helps them go, you know what? This person cares about me. This person listens to me. This person really wants me to go out and think about, how does this impact me? We don't set the environment for those things. And so the reason I put the chicken and the egg and all those things on the screen is, for me, when I think about authentic conversations, we've got to create an environment that helps create connection and create community. But we need a connection in a community that then feeds into people willing to share. So I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I just know all those things have to feed into each other. And when you're thinking about that and you're walking into a room, I want you to really consider, am I creating an opportunity for people to connect? Am I creating a community of people that feel safe and that can trust the people that are around them to kind of share some things that maybe, don't feel so good? So that's kind of how I want to kick this off. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I am going to talk through 6 different ways that I go into my classes that I facilitate, my training classes, my alignments, my kickoff meetings, my onboardings, all of those things. I'm going to not just tell you, here's what you need to do. I'm actually going to pull up examples on the screen. And when you leave today, my hope is that I'm going to show you 6. If you take them all, you're a high achiever, you're a high performer, take them and go make them better. But if you can just pull 1 or 2 of them out and go, you know what? I think I can go do that with my team. I think I can go in to my department or my group and I can really, hey, this is an example. Let's try to do this so that we can foster more authentic conversations. So the first one we're going to talk about today And most of my things are all visual and up on the wall. So just let you know that. So the first thing is, this is an agenda for a meeting, for a conference that I got to attend earlier this week. And that was with SoBuilt conference with Christina Hinkai. And she did this amazing conference with a small group of people that, I mean, industry change makers. And the way that we worked through the agenda for an entire full day conference was visual up on the board. Some of you call them Kanban or, Scrum, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. This is how the agenda was set up in the big room, in the room that we were meeting. And so a couple of things I want you to take away from this. Number one, it's visual. So we all sometimes get the agenda sit in front of us on the table with the times, and this is how much it's going to be and who's speaking. Sometimes we get it like Thomas had one kind of, here's my goal of what I'm going to hit today. And then sometimes we have no idea. I'm one of those people that usually do not give the agenda, because I'm usually going to go off track, and you can't go, oh, wait a minute, you didn't hit that one. So I usually don't give all the details. But what I love about this is, number one, it's visual. Number two, everyone in the room, it's very clear what the plan is for today. We're going to try to hit all these things. I'm going to tell you, we didn't. And that's okay, because it shows that, hey, I'm willing to put it out there. And you know what? There's a couple of those things that never moved from to do. This was the whole agenda, and it never moved over, because one of the conversations we got really deep, and it went longer. And so they kind of had to navigate how are we going to do this? And at the end of the day, the vulnerability of going, hey, we didn't tackle everything we planned to do. Okay, how did it impact it? Things like that. You're able to then bring them into the conversation around an agenda. And I just think that's magical when you can put it up on the board and be visual and let people see, hey, you're moving them across. So I have it here. We're as Felipe says, there's only one thing in the doing column. That's all you can do. So you move it over, and hey, we did lunch, we did breakfast. We made sure everyone knew, hey, here's where we are, but here's also the things we've accomplished so far. And so throwing it out there, visual, you can write it, you can do stickies, but I love the way that we were able to at any point look over and go, oh, that's how much we have done. That's how much we still have to do. So I would recommend, this is a great way to go into if it's a packed agenda and people are just like, oh my gosh, it kind of allows them to even, hey, can you go over and move that over, and you get them engaged in it, and it helps them learn not only here's an agenda, but it's also a tool. It's a process that they can now take and use for other things. And you're going to see that in some of my other examples. Is every time I do an exercise or I try to engage the room to help them kind of share more, it's always like, how do I create a connection so that they can walk away and go, ooh, now I can go and implement this on my project, and not just, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do this, go do this. It's, ooh, now I can go and do this with my trades when we start a new scope of work. I start giving them examples of things they can do on their job sites, not just because they're in my room. So that's one example. Next example, this one's kind of fun. So the next two are about icebreakers, and everyone talks about icebreakers and how important they are. And everyone who knows me knows that's one of the most magical parts, how we start out and create the environment for what's going to happen, what's next. And if you don't lean into this very much, you may be having to work through that throughout the meeting or throughout the day or throughout the training class. And so this is an example. I'm going to give you two of some icebreakers that you can help facilitate, and then what the magic is that comes from it and how you can kind of make that connection. So one of the things I do is when we go around the room and we share things about the people in the room, what's your name, where are you from, what's your role, and what food can you not, Jared already knows, what food can you not stand? And it's not the normal, what's your favorite food, what's your favorite, whatever. It's what food you want nothing to do with. So that in itself starts fostering conversations on, somebody will say, oh my gosh, I can't stand this. Oh my gosh, I can't either. Oh, that's my favorite. And so they're already starting to make connections, and I've not said or done anything, but somebody will say, oh my gosh, I remember this one time, or this, and they start relating to each other and connecting to each other just because of what they say. And to me, it's magic because you got different people, and I'm just like him. I'm like him too, but I like this, and they start making these connections and creating this little community. And all I've done is ask them a question. It's like magic. So my story with this is I go around and I let everybody share. And then it comes to me. And so they're like, okay, what is your least favorite food? And I say, my least favorite food is raspberries. And I say, and I have 3 brothers. And if you had to guess, what do you think their least favorite food is? And, sometimes they're like, well, what do you, and then somebody will go raspberries. I'm like, absolutely. So all 4 of us, our least favorite food is raspberries. And they're just looking at me. And I was like, let me tell you why. And I say, my dad was in the Navy. When he was in the Navy, he was stationed up in at the Naval Station in Philadelphia. My mom worked for the Red Cross. And if the kind of the Red Cross helps bring food for the troops and things like that. So for whatever reason, when my dad was in the Navy, he got some bad raspberries, like, ones that were sour and whatever. And at that moment, he decided that raspberries were nasty, that no one should have to consume them, and that they just tasted horrible. And so this was before any of us existed. So he met my mom, married my mom, had 4 kids, and our entire lifetime that he was alive, we didn't buy raspberries. We didn't buy things that tasted like raspberry. We were told they were gross. We don't do anything with raspberries. And to this day, if you say raspberries, I kind of, raspberries, but I can eat them and there's nothing wrong with them. We were conditioned to not like raspberries. So how many times when we're on the job site and we're in a room with people, because of how we say things, because of how we react, because of the words we use, because of the environment we set, we are conditioning people to do and say things purely because of how we do it. And then I just stop. And they're just like, all the time. I'm like, exactly. You think my dad intentionally made us want to hate raspberries? No. I mean, he loved us. We were his kids, but he did it subconsciously because he didn't like raspberries. And so I always challenge him, think about the things you're saying and doing, and the trades, they're watching you, and the people are engaging you. Your younger generations, they're doing, and you're shaping them, and you're conditioning them for how to treat people, how to take time off, how to work your butt off, or how to make sure that you balance. You're conditioning them for what they're going to be okay with. And so that's the icebreaker. And so it's one of those things that, depending on how you engage with some of these conversations, you are already setting up a condition for people who are going to be willing to share and willing to talk about things. And this is only one. So I know I got to get through this as I'm going to get run off the stage. So one example is, a food you can't stand, and then have a story to tie with it. Next example, and this one Jesse gets full credit for, is another icebreaker that I have used is with our emotional bungee jumpers group. We have challenges, and one of the challenges was Jesse had asked us to, ask at least 3 people, how do they like to receive information? How to communicate? How do they like people to communicate with them? And I thought that was one, that's a cool question, because sometimes we make a lot of assumptions. And so what I did is, because I have, a lot of classes that I get to talk to a lot of people, I use it as an icebreaker. And I said, hey, get your sticky, put your name on it. And I said, think about how you like to receive information, how you like people to communicate with you. And what is that? Is it text? Is it face-to-face? Is it things like, there's the question. Thank you, Jesse. But it's, how do you like that what does that communication look like? And I had them write it down. And then we looked at the responses, and we started talking through that. We started asking, okay, why? And and someone else said, well, I hadn't even thought about, I know how I like it, but I'd never thought about asking someone else how they like it. Because a lot of times we'll work our butts off to create A3s, dashboards. We're trying to create reports. We're trying to write emails and memos, because in our mind, that's how we need to communicate that information. But very rarely do we stop and ask the person that's actually receiving it, how would you like it? because sometimes it can keep you from working and doing more and creating waste because it's stuff that probably may not even be used. So another icebreaker, great conversation for people to start making connections and talking is, what is your preferred method of communication? So 2 icebreakers, you can use either one. Next example, so the next 4 are going to be things that I do within the class to kind of foster conversations. Next one is, I learned this one from Vic Ortiz in his kind of high performing leadership facilitation class that he has led and is handing off to Felipe and I. We're going to do some stuff with that later, but it's an exercise that was magical. And I never thought about it before. So collaboration is one of our 4 tenets at Robbins and Morton. So I talk about collaboration all the time. And I have always asked, what is collaboration to you? And then we get people to fill out sticky notes, and then we kind of talk through that. Well, he had an exercise, and we did it in class, and then I did it in 2 different classes after that, at classes that I lead. And it's collaboration. What is collaboration? What is not collaboration? And by just adding that other element, you can see some examples up here. It's easy to go, it's about teamwork, it's about a common goal, but then you start asking people to identify what is not. And then you start seeing very detailed examples of like, no, it's finger pointing. It's things that, it's not valuing opinions. And then all of a sudden you're getting another kind of a layer of where people probably have been hurt or been, some things that have happened to them that they're kind of holding on to, or some things that may be there that keep them from jumping in and having real conversations. And so I loved it. So that's the exercise. But then there's another layer, if you can get to it, and you say, okay, so give me examples of what is collaboration. What's something at your job site that you've seen, that you've witnessed at this company? Or all the new hires come through my class. So, or even something at a previous company where you have really felt this is exactly what collaboration should be, or this is not collaboration. Give us some examples. And then they start sharing in a room, and then other people start relating to them and adding to the conversations. It's amazing. So it's one exercise, and it can be, collaboration was the word I used. It can be whatever you want the topic to be, but you want them to look at both sides of it. Because sometimes it's real easy to focus on sometimes one side, but not looking at the other side. And so again, great exercise to use. And so just, if you have any questions about it, let me know. But it's one that I've only used in the last couple classes, and it was powerful. So there's that one. Next, this one's one of my favorites. This one is inside, outside the gate. And so those of you that have followed Jesse and I, we talk about inside and outside the gate all the time. I call it the inside outside exercise. I do it in every new hire class. I do it in any of my alignment classes, anything that I can do that talks about learning, creating a learning culture, talking about learning. I use this exercise. And so I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to tell you it's so freaking cool. So a lot of times we go into meetings and we already kind of have the agenda set. People that are having to attend to the meeting had nothing to do with the agenda. They just got told they have to show up and they have to be somewhere. And so what this exercise does, it not only pulls information out of your attendees, but then you can tell them how they can use this exercise when they go back to their job sites to be able to have valuable meetings and lunch and learns that is dictated by the people that are in the room. So the way the exercise works, and this one is inside outside, I ask the question, 2 sticky notes. On one sticky note, what is something you want to learn more about inside of our company? So your role, anything, and you can see the examples up here. What is something you want to learn more about inside of work? And then outside, what is something you want to learn more about outside of work? And all of a sudden, you've started to break down these barriers of show up to work, put my work hat on, focus on work. Okay, now I can go home and talk about home. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not saying 100% because I don't think anything's 100%, but 99% of the time we go through, they write them up on the board. Okay. And then we get to vote. So they all get 3 votes. They get stickers and things like that. So they get, and I give them 3 votes, and they get to put stickers on things they want to talk about. So we're going to have an exercise after we get back from lunch or whatever it is, and we're going to talk through a couple of these topics. So if you have 3 votes to go in and put your stickers where what you want to talk about in the room. And you can see here, these are actual examples where they went in and they stuck stickers on it. And what's been magical about this is these are real life examples of the ones that got the most votes. They're not technical skills. They're not processes. They're not things like that. And so I'm going to say, when you're going out and you're asking people things, don't just all of a sudden assume that they really, really want to talk about the tools and processes and they don't want to talk about the soft skills, because most of the time, the ones that get the most votes are the ones that have to do with the soft skills. So these are actually, how do we relax better outside of work? How can I relax? And then inside of the company, I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about how I can grow. And these have been things that, again, the feedback has been amazing. So I'm almost done. I only have one more left. So Felipe, just hold on just a second. The last one, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I will share any and all resources I have. So this one is called the 6 hats. And this one actually is really cool. It is, I read an article and it's about all in the room. You have people, there's usually 6 hats. People have one of these hats on in the room. And you can go through the conductor's hat. It's the optimist hat. It's the factual hat. It's the hat for the heart, the judge's hat where there's risk, and then the creative hat. And I go in and I give people stickers. They don't know what the stickers are for. And then I pose a problem to the room. And the only way they can respond to the problem is with the hat that they're wearing. And what we've realized is we don't realize how hard it is when other people are having to look at things from our perspective. But when we can only respond in a hat that's not ours, it is super hard. And so when we go in and we think about, sometimes you can start identifying these people in the room, but I'm telling you, it changes the way people look at how we're tackling problems, because they realize there's a lot of different perspectives to the problem. And so it's a really cool exercise. Happy to share any more information than that. And as my wrap up slide is, Jesse, 1, thank you for allowing me to be here today. And 2, for those of you that are just jumping on or just figuring out that there's this live stream and this cool conference, like there are magical people that spoke yesterday, that are speaking today, that have put out some really good content. And I'm just gonna do a promotion for all of them, is that go get their books, read them, because they're talking about some of their things on their little 25 minutes of fame, but most of them, they have so much more that they're not even touching on, and some of their books do. So I'm just recommending to go out and get their books. Okay, I think I'm done.
Gangsta. Well, what you didn't say, Jennifer, is that you're the illustrator on 2 of those books.
I am the illustrator on 2 of them.
Okay, so we got a bunch of questions. I'm going to start. So you're going to have homework just like Thomas did.
Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
I'm going to start with Darren. Mr. Darren Waldron says, are these exercises conducted once during a project or multiple times?
So I will answer based on, they can be done multiple times. Most of the ones that I do are because I'm usually brought in, all of our new hires come through a class with me and I do all they're not only a new hire once, but I do usually the project kickoff. We'll do the exercise. And then if I come back out for an onboarding or I come back out for another alignment meeting for something else, we'll go through the exercises again. So for me and my role, I usually will do them one time, but because of the way they're structured, the team can then take them and do them with other scopes of work and things like that. So.
Awesome. Okay, we got 2 more questions.
Okay.
And I'm sure Felipe has got one formulating. Actually, I see it down there.
Already.
Adam says, Jen, second on the emotional bungee jumper scoreboard. Anyone know who's on top?
Well, we only know because Adam will only talk about it if he's on top. So he will have nothing to do with the scoreboard if he's not the one on top. So I'm just going to guess Adam.
I love it. And then Sarah, who's coming in through LinkedIn that I don't have in the feed, asks, what is collaboration? What is not collaboration? And examples, what is or isn't?
So there's examples in the slide that I mean, you can go back and look. Most of the responses for me are, when you have a shared goal and you are working together towards that shared goal. That's kind of how I define collaboration, where we all are looking at something together and not just like all trying to pull out a lot of different perspectives, but we're trying to see, okay, how do these perspectives get us to that condition of satisfaction or whatever that goal is. And then what is not is all the things that we know that detract and that cause things in our industry to not work. And so there's a ton of them. And that is, for me, that exercise helps surface things. Some of them are repeated, and then some of them are very unique because of past experiences.
Boom. Felipe, what do you got for our sister before we do this handoff, brother?
I was getting that question in because I wanted to make sure that I hear from Jennifer what outside the gate influence has impacted your inside the gate actions the most.
Oh, outside the gate. Well, I 100% my kids.
There we go.
So 100% my kids. So right now I have a 12 and a 14-year-old daughter that have obviously been on this journey with me, and they are very quick to call me out when they've seen me very visible saying something on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on something I've written or I've said, and then I'll do something and they're like, Mom, that does not very much match up with this. And it's like right in my face. Like, what? I mean, I have to like own that. Like sometimes I have to put different hats on, and the way that I show up for them is sometimes different than the way I show up to work. And it's very apparent to them. So it's helping me be a better person and be more balanced. And I don't have to turn things off and on.
Nice. Good. Very good.
Monster question, Felipe. All right, Jen, I appreciate you very much for the energy and the insight that you brought. There's a lot of valuable stuff that we're going to be rewatching. And also, you got questions out there, girl. You got to answer them.
Okay, I'll go back and look at them for sure.
Awesome. We'll see you later.
Bye. Good luck, Felipe.
Thank you.
And now we have Felipe Engineer Manriquez bringing Ninja Scrum to us. What do you think so far, Felipe?
So far, it's been a lot of information. Like I'm burning up notes over here. So if the people watching, you better be ready with your questions. Let the questions keep flying. This is the time to engage with people and get exactly what you need.
Boom, 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 boom. So we are streaming on your stuff, on Thomas's stuff, Jennifer's stuff right now. So folks, I'm working to like pull in comments. Like if it's on your stream, I'm going to have to go watch it on YouTube and I'll filter them in somehow. You good with people asking questions as you're talking?
Yeah, please. As people ask, throw the questions up on the screen as we go so that we can see where people are. That's the best way, right, Jesse?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Just interrupt.
Let's just let it go, let it flow, and we're going to have some fun.
And that would make Jesse work. Make him work harder so he can't do anything else other than watch your questions, which is I'm going to be enjoying knowing that you're right back there trying to watch all of the stuff coming in.
Bro, I just realized I didn't eat breakfast or lunch. And I'm like, damn it, I got 2 more hours till I could eat. But this is amazing. So I am going to exit stage left. And I will be. You have a presentation to share.
Yes. Yeah, if you can. You have to put the presentation up for me.
Yep.
And then I think I can take control. There we go. Beautiful.
Yep. All right, y'all. Take it away, Ninja Master.
Thank you, Jesse. Welcome to the De-Centralized Conference. My name is Felipe Engineer Manriquez, and you're watching this on pretty much any channel. This could be anybody's channel, but on my channel at Felipe Engineer on YouTube, I am happy to share Construction Scrum Ninja, a path to easier, better, and faster project delivery. In this live stream, if you have a question, either now or if you're watching this in the replay, post your question to the chat and I will answer your question. Yes, me. I will answer your question, not chat or so some people say cheat GDP. I will answer all of your Scrum questions. How did I learn how to use this? With these very hands. I learned lean construction and Scrum and agile principles, techniques, and traditional project management so many years ago. I've been in the construction industry for over 2 decades. I know it doesn't show how luscious this hair still looks, but it used to come down to like here. So I've aged, I've gained some experience, and you can see from the gray hair. But I'm excited to share different ways that you can implement some of these strategies. And my favorite, most impactful thing is Scrum. It has taken me around the world. I've engaged with people in Brazil, South America, other places. I know Brazil's in South America, but I'm just coming around the map. Mexico, of course, the United States, Canada, in Europe and multiple different countries, Asia, as well as Australia with Scrum. So I think it's been everywhere out in the continent of Africa, of course, let's not forget. So everywhere so far except Antarctica. So researchers, if you come across this on your channel, Ninja Scrum might be what you want to play with in the Antarctic. It's up to you. So let's dive right in. Now, as we go, get your questions up so that we keep Jesse from eating. That's pretty good. That's going to be pretty cool. So if you got questions about what we're sharing, just put it on the screen. One of the first things that we've got to understand in Ninja Scrum is in the art of the ninja. True mastery lies in the seamless fusion of mind, body, and spirit. Like we heard from Jennifer and Thomas earlier today, there is a false idea of thinking that things are separated. Everything is actually pretty interconnected. It's very hard to let go of what happened to you yesterday, even the next day when you come into work from a long weekend or whatever day of the week it is. It's always you. So you're bringing it in. Just think more holistically. It's me. It's how I think. It's the state of my body. Am I well rested? What's my spirit right now? Am I high energy? Am I low energy? Am I at peace? Am I stressed? All these things will affect how you will engage with your project teams and your families. And I use Ninja Scrum at home and at work in both places and on my podcast. And even making this presentation, I used Ninja Scrum on myself so that I would have no resistance when it came to sharing the right message with each and every one of you. So you want to move with purpose, adapt, and act with unwavering focus. If you don't move with intention, then you're just being moved by others and other forces. And this reminds me of one of the quotes that's been going around on YouTube and TikTok for quite some time. And it's a movie about a boxer that gets into a car accident, and a reporter is asking him as he's making his recovering. A reporter asks him, "What's the biggest lie you've ever been told?" And he says in the movie, "It's not that easy." And the reporter is like, no, and repeats herself. And he says, "No, the biggest lie that I've been told is it's not that easy. In reality, it actually is that easy. You have to just do it. Set yourself to doing it." When I first started using Scrum and lean construction techniques, I read through books that were this thick to understand what it was. And as I was reading, I would come to find out that the concepts and the principles were basic, very basic, like even respect for people. There are many layers to that principle, but it starts off by treating yourself right. And that's why I had to use Ninja Scrum on myself all those years ago to treat myself better, because in reality, I wasn't. I was overworking. I was not being a high value contributor when I first started. I didn't have the capability or the capacity. And so when I decided to treat myself better, everything cascaded from that moment forward. And I was able to act with unwavering focus. I decided that the word no would not deter me because I'm in control, or I'm taking control. And I want each of you to think about that. The biggest lie that you're going to be told when adopting any of these tools and all the topics you're seeing in this conference, and you might lie to yourself and say, "It's too hard. I can't do it. I can't be that person." And you're lying to yourself. You can be that person. Each of us was that person. Everything that you've heard at this conference so far, we weren't born knowing how to do that. We were born like everybody else with complete amnesia, had no memory of what happened until we get here. And so you've got to be honest with yourself. Take a beginner's mind and start. It's that easy. Okay, so we'll switch over from the ninja to the samurai, because it's worth noting to do nothing that is of no use. That is a quote from Miyamoto Musashi. And Musashi famously wrote the Book of the Two Swords and the Book of the Five Rings. And I often think of Musashi in Renaissance Kyoto, Japan, in some place like this, on the side of a mountain, sitting up and writing in his kaji characters, his memoirs, after a lifetime of being a warrior. He was a true martial artist, developing himself. And he said, do nothing that is of no use. I later heard Bruce Lee and making some similar types of quotes about how to be effective and not to waste your time. So as you look at this beautiful landscape and think, what am I doing now that's not helping me? And this is part of the Ninja Scrum. The very first part is that you need capability and capacity. If you're not doing Scrum now, if it was so easy, you'd already be doing it. There is one thing you're going to have to learn, and you're going to have to learn what you know and don't know about it. And I'd recommend not relying on your favorite search engine, because that's not going to be enough. Yeah, thank you, Ernest, the master ninja, the ninja master. So think about what it was like for Musashi. He developed the two-sword method. He had a long sword and a short sword. And he needed the long sword for big open field combat to keep enemies back, and a short sword for close quarter combat. And he used both and mastered both. And I want you to think that as you're applying any type of tool, you need to be thinking now and also in the future, forward thinking. And we'll talk about some horizons. So here's the beautiful picture in color. And wouldn't it be easier to start your Ninja Scrum with a goal in mind? If you're starting out on this path, if your goal is to reach the top of the mountain, recognize, like Musashi said, there are many paths to the top of the mountain. There is not one path. You see the one path before us, and in the distance you can see a paved road, and then there's a road down below that goes off in the distance. But you could also blaze your own path and your own trail. I'm showing you but a path, one way to go. I like to be able to see where am I going, so I'll use a compass. In my example for Ninja Scrum, when I first started, my goal was first to scrum the week. And there it is. Super simple. It's not a SMART goal, and don't get me started on SMART goals. That's a conversation for another video. But my goal was just to scrum the week and understand what Scrum is so that I can scrum the week. And this, I would say, today is Saturday. By next Friday, I should be able to see that I have in fact done this. It should be obvious to me, just like that marker at the top of the mountain, so that I will be able to look back and see what I've done. So for Ninja Scrum, the goal I'm giving you on the path that I've traveled, if you'd like to travel with me, is to scrum your week. Scrum the next 5 days. And so let's keep going. In order to understand where you're going, you've got to use all of your senses. We said mind, body, and spirit. So let's use our observations and our senses to see, to hear, to feel, touching, tasting, and feeling with the heart. Use all of those senses as you go. And that way you'll be able to move with stealth and remove impediments. And impediments are, just like we heard in Theory of Constraints with Thomas talking about the goal and Herbie, we've got to make easier the work so that we can go forward. And by taking the time to remove impediments, first get stuff out of your own way so that you can do this. Then you can help your team. And that's just going to benefit everybody, starting with you, which is where respect starts. Start with yourself first. What's in the way of you starting to use Scrum right now? It could be as simple as a decision. And when you reflect on it, it's just the decision to not start, which keeps you from starting. I recently met somebody in Norway, and they had read my book. And thank you, Jennifer, for putting all those great book recommendations out earlier in the video. and they said they had questions about the framework, and I said, "Well, what have you used it to Scrum? What has Scrum helped you with?" And the person said, "Oh, I haven't started yet." I was like, "Well, how long ago did you read the book?" "When it first came out." And I was like, "Well, that was almost 2 years ago." So I was like, "Don't read the book again. The first thing you need to do is you need to get started." And there are simple instructions on how to get started. So get started, get out of your own way by making excuses to not do it perfectly. That is an impediment that a lot of people face in construction Scrum, using Scrum in design construction. Like, "Oh, this is not for me. This is too difficult. If I can't get the whole team to do it, it's not going to happen." No, you can do it just for you first and benefit yourself first, and then go to others. So the first impediment you're going to see, and thank you, Jesse, for bringing that out. There is multiple ways to learn the framework in much more detail, including a free half-hour course, because I can't do it in less than 30 minutes. So 20 minutes is just the ninja to get you started. I'm going to share some rules of thumb with all of you, but the first barrier you see there on our path is probably you. You're the first barrier. You're the first impediment. So here's some rules of thumb. Use grace with yourself. Be patient. Perfect is not what we're looking for. We're looking for you just to get started. These are my tools as a Ninja Scrum Master when I get started. I have a simple marker. I just so happen to like this color blue. And I have a blue Post-it note, but you can use whatever you have. You can even use an Excel spreadsheet if that's what you want to use to expose your thinking. Or I know some of you are huge Microsoft fans. You could even use OneNote and just create a simple list. As long as you move things around, you can get the same exact feel and benefit as this. But this is the easiest, low-tech, nothing to teach thing to go with. So to get that first impediment out of the way, you got to learn what Scrum is. So from the Scrum guide, there is actually a rule book. Scrum is simple. Try it as is. The framework is purposefully incomplete, which is like, nobody thinks that. If you read the Scrum guide, it tells you it's incomplete on purpose. And it's built upon the collective intelligence of the people using it. So you're going to create some capacity. That space that you make for yourself by doing nothing that is of no use is you're going to read the Scrum guide. And I'll give you a link, or you can listen to it in a second. Then you're going to fix something. Fix something that's personal to you, that's connected to you, that's going to impact your body, mind, and spirit. And remove the suffering. Help your team, help yourself, help the project deliver by looking at what's frustrating people now. Every construction project I know and every design project I know has something causing people undue suffering. If you can work to remove that, you're going to create goodwill so that you can go further in your Scrum implementation. So I've got a video here that I'm not going to play now, but on my YouTube channel, if you just land on my channel, Felipe Engineer on YouTube, you can watch how the Scrum framework works in construction. And I got a question here from Jared. Jared says, when requesting one of your teammates that is having a hard time keeping up to try Scrum, and they respond with, "I'm too busy to Scrum," how do you reply? I always tell people, you're right. If you think you're too busy to learn something new, you're absolutely correct. And if you think that you'd benefit from learning Scrum, you are absolutely correct. So I use energy and enthusiasm about it myself to make people curious and want to try this. And I've seen Ninja Scrum happen with company-wide conversions. One in particular is an engineering company in the middle of the country where the owner got super enthusiastic about it, and people noticed a change in the owner because he had much more capability, capacity, and his emotional intelligence increased as he became more aware of the things that were causing his team frustration. That creativity on him to use it himself created pull from his team to use it. Scrum is not something I push on people. And all of the people watching from the Bull Company can attest that I never tell them that you should just do Scrum. Now, some of them that know that I'm a Scrum enthusiast will ask me about it, and I'll tell them with the same passion and vigor that I have for it because I use it every day of my life at both work and at home. So, yeah. There's a link to the YouTube channel. I have a podcast as well where I actually read the Scrum Guide out loud and I give my design and construction commentary based on my experience. It's also a chapter in my book, and Jesse shared that link before, and you can click in the show notes below and get access to all the my favorite free chapters from the Construction Scrum book, so that you can, be entertained and learn how to do Scrum at the same time. And so I want to come back to some of the live Q&A, and just to show Jennifer what 20 minutes looks like. This is what 20 minutes looks like, Jennifer. So I'm hitting that 20-minute mark, Jesse, right on point. That is the last slide in the slideshow, and we'll go open up to the Q&A. So I've got some questions I can see coming in from the chat. And to go a little bit further on what Jared was saying about people not being able to keep up, you've got to slow yourself down and ask people with real, genuine, what we call humble inquiry or real curiosity. What are you working on? Just get curious. What are you working on? Something that person is doing that you think that they'd benefit from Scrum is preventing them from trying something different. Like, why would I, make sticky notes to do long and short-term planning, is what people would say. And then I'll answer Adam's question here, but here's another rule of thumb. Like, when you start scrumming, look 30 days into the future, look 5 days into the future. Plan the next 5 days, but be aware of what's coming up in the next 30. Now you're acting like a samurai and not quite a ninja. So we'll get back to ninjing. Make the work visible for yourself so that you can see. And then Adam said, what's the downside? One of the downsides of Scrum is when you make the work super transparent and visible, everybody's going to see like what's going on. Like, how much do you work? What are you working on? And for some people, this is terrifying. There was a Scrum team that I work with in Texas where one of the leaders of the team realized quickly that everyone was going to know that they weren't doing anything. And they did everything that they could to stop their team from scrumming. And the company, unfortunately, promoted them, or fortunately. And then the team all quit. One by one, the team quit because somebody got promoted that didn't actually do work. And once you know how to make work visible, even when people don't, you can more easily spot it. So that's definitely one of the downsides. I'd also say another negative is there's going to be before and after. There's the before Scrum that you have, and then there's the after. And you're going to feel a little bit of angst about, why didn't you start this earlier? This was so easy. And so I want you to think about this for those of you getting started. Like, get your before written down somewhere, even if it's just on a blank little sticky pad. Write down some metrics of how you were before. How much time did you spend in meetings last week? How effective do you feel you were on a scale of 1 to 5? And don't overthink it. Just write it down, hide the sticky note, and then 5 days from now, take a look and see if it made a difference for you. So we got a question from the Omniverse. Have you found your own critical thoughts can get in the way? Thank you, Sarah. That's a great question. And absolutely, the answer is yes. I said in the beginning, one of the first obstacles you're going to face is you. You've got resistance yourself to trying something new because it's risky. You're going to be vulnerable. When I first tried Scrum, I was working on a hard bid project, and I decided to do it as an experiment to see, like, does this work in construction? Because at the time, that was over almost 10 years ago, it was everything you looked at was like IT software with examples. There wasn't anything about construction. And so I was like, let me try this on me and make sure that this works. And in my book, I share a story about how I tried it with my son, who at the time was like not even 5 years old. And it worked with him. And then I used it at work and it worked. And I thought, wow, this actually is working. But I did have to overcome some negative thinking of myself too. I wanted to just get it started because I was extremely frustrated on the project that I was on. And it was that frustration and just plain out desperation that said, anything's got to be better than what I'm doing now. And it was one of the greatest things that I convinced myself to do because it has made everything else so much easier. So that was super good question, Sarah. Yeah. Negative thoughts, when they come, just let them see what the negative thought is and then let it continue on its way. You don't have to hold on to it. If you have self-doubt, you don't need to, let it become a record that plays on repeat in your mind, or for those of you that don't know what a record is, don't let it be a song that you just have repeating over and over again in your playlist. Let some other songs come through your list. And then Mr. Hoot says, how many times do you have a deliver Scrum activity? You always deliver. So Adam, if you set your sprint duration, which is the time box that holds everything in our Scrum, it's our cycle of time where we're going to go through the repetitions of what the framework is. That, for a lot of people, setting it at 30 days is super easy. Now for Ninja Scrum, you want to set it at 5 days so that you can see progress 5 days from now. What's up, Heather?
Hey.
Yeah, you got to deliver every week. And Heather even has an email to me right now about Scrum, and she's just not in my responding framework. So there's been no response from me yet. But I've seen the email, Heather, but it's not time to respond yet because it's my cycle is coming up. So I'm just keeping it in the cycle.
I appreciate the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Well, that brings a question I have, Felipe. What is the time frame in terms of the time it takes for people outside of you to become conditioned or adjust to your new method of operation in terms of Scrum?
Yeah, it depends on the number of interactions. The more interactions you have, the faster it happens. The faster the conversion, or the faster that they recognize like what you can do. Like I just had a conversation. We had a reflection, my boss and I, over the last year, and he made the comment about pretty much anything we put in front of you, just devour it. You handle it. And the same is true for like food. People have watched me eat. They know that I can put some food away. And I go after the work in the same way that I go after, getting my plate cleared.
A steak?
No crumbs, right? Heather knows, no crumbs, no leftovers. It's going to all get done.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I bring that up is just like the response that or the exchange you just had with Heather. Some people are in a state that they're used to an immediate response to every single email or communication they sent out. And what you just demonstrated was limiting work in progress.
Right.
Like I saw it, but it's not in my workflow to respond right now. I will be responding in a future. And so that could be jolting for people on the other end. And so maybe in my head, there's some adjustment for people on both sides of the Scrum board, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things when you're at a practicing Ninja Scrum Master, you never want to come off as thirsty, Jesse. You want people to always be wanting more of you. And so if you make yourself and I'm super accessible. Like Heather knows that if it's urgent, she can just call my phone and I'll answer it. Right. But I'm not going to be constantly responding to emails every day. And I know a lot of people we work with in our industry are on the constant treating email like it's a text message type of response. And I just don't do that.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching people that that's not going to ever be the case with me. And for some people that don't know, and they're used to the text message email exchange, they learn probably within 5 days.
That ain't the way it works.
It's not the way it works.
Yeah. Well, we got another question from Mr. Jared in Switzerland. Says, is there an over Scrum or a point in which it could be counterproductive?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, Jared. The short and fast is things that are very simple and trivial. If you can do it on a checklist alone, do not Scrum it, because you're going to you'll be doing more work than is necessary to just do the work. And like, as you get better in the framework, there's some things that will just become muscle memory and you can do without thinking. And so don't overproduce. Err on the side of like going through the framework, like the first way through at least one time before you start innovating and making lots of changes. So Jared, read the Scrum Guide, download my free chapters of my book, listen to me narrate chapter 9. And then anything after that is just gravy.
Oh, gravy. Miss Heather, you got any questions or any Elmos you want to throw at Felipe before we do the transition?
That's when we first met. That is exactly how I introduced myself to Felipe, was throwing an Elmo in his face.
Is that Elmo right there?
It is that Elmo right up there.
Exactly.
Oh, no, it's yours. That's right.
That's mine.
And now
Yeah.
I have his twin right
Oh
here.
yeah, that's the one.
Nice.
The one.
Memories.
Oh,
Memories.
memories. Yeah, she almost broke my glasses, but luckily they stayed together, which is great because I needed them to see. But Heather is very strong. People, everyone to know that, like going into her session, like she's super strong. So just keep that in mind. Proceed
Boom.
with caution.
Yes, proceed with caution. Well, Felipe, appreciate you for sharing your time and your scrumalicious scrumminess. There are links in the chat, folks. If you want to connect to Felipe's bio link, it's there. And there's also the link that'll take you to the website. Closing thought before we hand it over to Miss Heather.
The final thing is, like Jeff says, just get started.
Gangsta. All right, my man, you be cool.
Talk at you next time.
Yeah. Well, Heather, that gives us a couple of minutes together. How you doing so far?
Doing well.
Yeah? What do you think about the lineup that we had yesterday and
Oh.
today?
Man, what a great lineup. It's an honor to be a part of such a strong lineup from our industry. So
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for the invitation and being a part of this.
Of course. Thank you for accepting. And folks out there in the Omniverse, Heather is under the weather and still showing up, being ready to show out. And what she's going to bring to us, she's going to have a conversation about respect for people, which, if you didn't notice yesterday and haven't heard through today's presenters, there's a heavy emphasis on people. And Heather, I know you have a deep appreciation for the folks out there that are doing the work and affecting change such that the misery that is currently experienced is dissipated. We want less, and you're working in that direction. So I can see that you all were streaming to your account. Awesome. We got that working behind the scenes. Are you presenting anything, or you're just all screen on you?
I do have one video I would like to show, if we can try that out.
Sure. Is that where you're starting off at?
You know what? Not like right after I get started.
Okay, good. Just hit the share screen on your end, and as soon as I see it, I'll bring it up on the screen.
Okay.
All right. Good. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Share screen on my end. Maybe it's present. Okay, well, everybody, my name is Heather Ormonde, and as Jesse said, please bear with me. Today is the first day I've been able to really make it out of bed. Got a virus from my daughter, and it was a really tough one. So what I want to talk about is respect for people. And I want to start with a quote from Walt Disney, who said, he had many great quotes, but the one, you can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. Right there, it takes people. That's where it starts. And if you've been watching over the last day, all of the presentations, the common thread was people. And every topic was different, but everyone focused on the people aspect, because I think that's where we seem to have gotten away from. And that's where we need to really start focusing our time. So I'm going to try and get this video to show here in just a second. So respect for people. The video I'm going to show is my grandfather. At 92 years old, he was, we were playing a game, and this was just a few months before he passed. And the question, this game had questions, and it said, what is the most valuable lesson you have learned? And so let's see if we can get this. hope you guys can see this on your side.
What is one of the most valuable lessons you have learned? Yeah. The golden rule. I hope I never lose my marble. It says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that raises goosebumps. The golden rule.
Okay, well, I hope that went through. And but it's the golden rule marble. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. My grandfather always had it in his pocket. He handed it out almost like candy, the marbles, to people because it was so important. And I feel like in our industry, we've lost a lot of that. When I started in the construction industry, I was really taken back at the very beginning by how we treated people, specifically our trade partners. I remember thinking, well, they can't eat in the building. They have to eat in their trucks. It's like 100 degrees outside. How and there's just those porta potties. Like, that doesn't seem like, my initial thought was, how is this an acceptable work environment? How is this allowed to treat people this way? But soon I guess we become numb to those maybe initial like questions and thoughts, and just see that as the norm, and that's just how things go. Later, when I was on the owner's side, after working for a few general contractors, I went to the owner's side. And one day I was talking with a GC about a project we were working on. And he came and said, I feel like, what have I done? Because I feel like you don't trust me. And I kind of, what do you mean? Well, you're treating me like you don't trust me. What have I done to have you not trust me? And it made me realize a big reality check. Well, I was just treating this GC the same way that I had been taught to treat every trade partner. We say trust but verify. And it just was a reality check that, man, if the GC, if he felt so taken back and so off-put by how I was treating him, I can't imagine how every trade partner, and no wonder they won't speak up and they won't share or give input or feel like they are part of the team. So now I want to quote Adam Hoots. He's got a new book out, Old Dog, Lean Thesaurus. If you haven't seen it or gotten it, you need to check it out. But I really like the way his description of respect for people encompasses a fundamental and comprehensive approach to fostering an environment of dignity, collaboration, and continuous improvement. It extends beyond mere politeness and encompasses a range of practices aimed at harnessing the inherent value and potential of every individual involved in the construction process. So some of the things that really stand out there for me are the dignity and the collaboration, and how important that is. Felipe said it just on the previous conversation, that we need to start, respect for people starts with ourselves. And how many of us take the time to think about self-care and putting ourself first or our family first? I sure did not. And have recently been learning more about self-care. As with anything, is if I don't know anything about it, I grab a book or I go do some research. So recently I looked up self-care and found that there's like 7 different categories of self-care. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot there, and a lot that I used to do, but as life has gotten busy, I stopped doing, and I started thinking about, man, I miss, having art in my life. I miss, working out, taking the time to work out and do things. But respect for people starts with ourself. And are we respecting our health, our time, our family? Another thought as we think about respect for people is we need more people to join our industry. We've all hear every day about how so many are retiring and there's such a resource shortage. We can't get people to join our industry. But if we're treating them like subhumans and we're not giving them adequate facilities, Jason Schroeder says it great. Respect equals high expectations. And his podcast, his second podcast talks about respect for people and how important clean bathrooms are and comfortable break rooms. And he challenges everyone to, think about the people that are putting the work into place and where are they at and how can we treat them better. Some ways to do this are thinking about Gemba walks. Go and see what are the challenges that those people are facing. How can we make their work better? But go listen. There's so many tools out there to learn about respect for people. Humble inquiry is a great place to start. Gemba walks. I'm not going to give a list. I'll put it in the chat later on, a list of some really good resources. But Toyota has some really great quotes. Everybody wants to copy what Toyota has done, and they're willing to share it out. But the thing that is missing that a lot of people are focusing on is the tools. Like we hear over and over, it's about the lean tools. It's the toolbox. But what about the people? And there is as something that Toyota has posted is there is no limit to how far human wisdom can be developed within the company. We continually aim to achieve mutual understanding, fulfill mutual responsibilities, and combine the power of our individual employees. Respect for people is the attitude that regards people's ability to think most. So, respect people's ability to think, treating people, developing our people. That's every trade partner. That's everybody that's on the project site. How can we develop them? How can we give them the tools, teach them, expand their knowledge? I was recently heard a company that was going away from their normal, you've got your monthly, quarterly review with your employer. And often it's, here's what you've done well, here's where you need to improve upon, and what are those steps to making that happen. Well, this company is taking a different approach, and they are focusing on that employee. What are your goals? What are you super energized about right now that you want to go and change and make an impact? Okay, now how can I help support you in doing that? What tools do you need? Too often, people come up with really great ideas and it's, hey, that's great. Now go give me a plan of how to implement that. Maybe instead of saying that, say, that's a great idea. What do you need to be successful? How often do you ask that for your people? What do you need to be successful? That's really respect for people. Another really great quote from Toyota was, respect. We respect others, make every effort to understand each other, take responsibility, and do our best to build mutual trust. Teamwork. We simulate personal and professional growth, share the opportunities of development, and maximize individual and team performance. Make every effort to understand each other, take responsibility, and do our best to build mutual respect. One story I've got, the GC was complaining, the trades, everybody was complaining about all the changes that were happening, and they were really coming down on the architect. Man, why do you keep giving all these changes? Why do you keep, we're trying to build this project. How are we supposed to build it if you keep changing it and not telling us not knowing what we're doing? And, put yourself in that architect's shoes. What if that architect is just doing the best they can, but every time they meet with the owner's changing their mind because the owner really doesn't know what they want? Or the owner just went and saw something new that they want to now incorporate in this new project. This project that is going to be, they've worked and saved for years to build this project for their company. And this is their one chance at getting it right. And now they don't have the money to go back and do it over a second time or to change it. So if they see something, they want to incorporate that, so that it can provide value to their employees. But we don't think about the perspective of the architect or the owner or what they're going through. We just think about all the changes and the nightmare that's causing us. So take a second and try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and what are they going through. Another really great. So thinking about respect for people, what can you do to implement this? What can you go and try? And this is from Natalie Sawyer. We as individuals will contribute to a culture of respect for people just by how we show up each moment. It starts with self-awareness and personal accountability for our own leadership. Ask yourself, am I continuing to grow, learn, and develop? Am I building capability with those around me? Using language constructively, listening and communicating effectively. Am I contributing to the development of a lean culture? Am I actively improving processes and solving problems? Am I being accountable to the results as well as the process to achieve them? How are you showing respect for people? What are you doing to be intentional? So, Darren, yes. What do you need to be successful? Any other questions we've got?
Heather, how are you?
Doing well.
You having fun?
Yes.
So I have a question that I'm going to ask, and it might be a little coming from a tangent. So here it is. Heather, what makes you feel respected?
Feeling heard. Feeling heard. What a great question. Being a female in the construction industry, feeling like my opinion matters and that people want to listen.
Oh. So folks out there in the Omniverse, hit us with your questions. But you just opened up another question. So,
okay.
I cut you off. I'm sorry. I'll pump the brakes. You good? What are some indicators that you have been heard? You personally?
somebody repeating back what they heard, or, oh, I really like that idea, or that sounds really good, or tell me more about that. Some of those humble inquiry is a great place to start with feeling heard and listening to people. I had this boss, Lean Six Sigma black belt, and we went through humble inquiry exercise together and the act of listening. He listened and he repeated back everything I said, and it was just this eye-opening experience because I always felt like I didn't feel heard with him. I didn't feel like he was listening or paying attention. He's one of those really smart people that took it all in, but it didn't come across that he was listening. It kind of came across as he was waiting for a point to start talking. And but when he repeated back, I was like, wow, you caught all of that. I was really surprised. His actions didn't make me feel unheard when we would talk and stuff. Does that make sense? So, like, he responded, he acknowledged maybe what I was saying, but the way he carried himself, I didn't sometimes feel like he was actually actively listening.
Yeah, no. So what I heard is like the response, the dialogue. Okay, I heard what you said. This is what I took away. Kind of recapping makes you feel heard in the moment. And if that was absent, his actions and behaviors also didn't reinforce or indicate that he was listening and that he heard you.
Yeah.
So there's another question in the chat, so I'm gonna bring it up. But before I do that, how meaningful is it when someone takes action on what you just talked about?
It's I don't know that I can put that into words. It's I don't think I can put it into words. It's just so rewarding it's more than feeling heard. It's just I matter.
And is that connected to feeling respected?
Yeah.
I mean, there's layers to this listening thing.
Yep.
And obviously there's layers to this respect thing, but taking action on what people communicate to us, you can't receive that communication if you don't shut up and listen. And you can listen actively to demonstrate that, yes, I hear you. I want you to know that you're heard. And then pulling the trigger and doing something is a demonstration of respect. And so we got to comment. Go ahead.
And it doesn't have to be, say it's a plus delta and somebody's given something. Maybe you can't do that request. Maybe you can't make that change. But acknowledging, hey, I hear you. You would like for us to start this meeting earlier. Unfortunately, due to X, Y, and Z, we can't do that.
Oh my God. You know what? And thank you for that. Almost as if we scripted it, because I totally forgot. But folks out there in the Omniverse, this QR code will take you to a plus delta that Heather set up. You took charge of it. You put the link together and did all the magical things. And the intent of this is to get your feedback on all of the presenters today and yesterday. What was it about the conversation that made your use of time a valuable investment? And what was it about the experience that you would like to see different, that would enhance your experience in the future? So, do the snappy snap and whatever, like, I don't know if you're on your phone or whatever, but you can get it on the replay, and we love your feedback. And in that thread of respect, I'm fixing to bring Mr. Davis up. He's chomping at the bit to get up here.
Was there one more question you had?
Yeah. I'm bringing Adams up right now. So Adam says, amazing. How can we measure respect on the project?
Ooh. I think that's a great question. And I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to that, but I think when looking at the atmosphere, are people speaking up? We talk about, trust and reliable promises. Somebody able to comfortably say, no, I can't do that. I can't make that. I think that's where you see it. That's where you could measure it. I heard it from a GC just last week. I can't tell or a trade partner, I can't tell the GC no. And GCs, I can't tell the owner no. Well, why not? How are we supposed to have trust, and how are we supposed to get things done and have reliable promises if we can't say no?
Whew. So maybe that's a measurement point, right? What's your comfort level in saying no? And you've got to back it up. You can't just say no because I don't want to. You can't be Jesse, right? That's what Jesse does. So I've seen another method by Adam Hoots. He calls it the circle of trust. And I'm not going to spill the beans on it. I think his website link is out there in either today or yesterday's deal. Construction Inc. Solutions. He can help you with that. And it's one of those simple but hyper effective techniques of clarifying the or maybe visualizing the level of respect that people are experiencing on site.
Okay. So I'm going to put some links to some resources and some tools for respect for people on my LinkedIn page. So check that out, and I will make sure and put Adam's link to that circle of trust in there.
Phenomenal. Well, before you go, Miss Heather, Adam Hoot says that video of your grandfather was very touching. Great work. He got goosebumps. Thank you. Mr. Jared Wilson, who's watching with his whole family. So, Jared, hopefully we're kind of getting through so they understand the crazy, weird, lean things that you're attracted to. He says, thank you, Heather, for sharing. Hope you feel better. And Davis, you got a question or a thought for Miss Heather?
I do. Miss Heather, this is the first time meeting you, but just hello for meeting virtually. But, you talked about it a little bit, but what was it like having the shift? You talked about respect for people a lot, but on the last part, you kind of hit on active listening. I can think back into my own life when I wasn't an active listener, and when I was, what was that shift like for you? For a lot of people, it's probably a lot different, right? It's just like the definition of leadership. It means different things to each person. But what was that shift like for you from not being an active listener to stepping into learning how to be an active listener?
It's a hard shift. And it takes a lot of practice and just being aware and being humble enough to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I've got this going on. It's again saying no.
Right.
I can't take on what you've got right now, but I do want to hear because it is important, but I don't have the capacity. Or let me finish this thought, and then so it definitely takes some practice.
Right. I think that's, at least what I did. I'm third year full time in the construction industry, and it took some time to realize that you can tell people no, right? And it's okay. And it's probably even better that you do because you're honest and being vulnerable up front and telling them, hey, I don't have the capacity right now, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Amen.
Yep.
Well, Heather, I appreciate your time. Phenomenal job. I know you're going to go rest because I know how much energy this kind of thing takes. Thank you for your thoughts, your vulnerability, sharing your experience, and your grandfather's insight, because we all kind of have lost our marbles and we need to get them back. So, Heather, thank you, girlfriend.
Bye. Thank you.
And now it is my buddy and I, Mr. Davis Hambrick. Davis, my friend, thank you, sir. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm just trying to figure out how'd you get all these people to want to help you out, Jesse, man. They want to help a guy out like you. What's going on here?
Well, the advent of video technology gives me
There
a
you go.
lot of evidence that I'm
There you
holding over people's head. No, I'm joking. I'll tell you the truth, man. The idea came to mind. If I got to give you some credit, so I'm gonna make you blush here because I know
Oh
you
my
don't like
gosh.
it.
I don't.
This
I might leave.
idea jumped in my head last October. I was in Phoenix, and it's called the Decentralized Conference because we've all been to tons and tons of conferences, and there's some stuff I don't really like. As an attendee, I have to fly to wherever the thing is. I gotta pay,
Yeah.
right, to be a part of the thing, and they ain't cheap.
Mm.
And then I kind of end up getting bombarded with emails from all the vendors that I also don't really like, right? I have a newsletter and I have a business, so I am one of those people that does bombard others. But it was an element that I wanted to remove. And then as a presenter, Thomas and I were talking about this at the beginning. I don't really like going through the dang submitting an abstract, right? And hoping and wishing that they're going to pick me, and then contorting my message so that it fits their thing, and the inability to interact with people directly, say the next presenter or people that are like out there in the audience.
Right.
So then the question was like, okay, I don't like that. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to cry or am I do something? I had lunch with Felipe. I say, hey, man, I'm tinkering. He's like, dude, we could live stream that on YouTube. I said, oh yeah. So that was October. January, you and I were on a call because you and I have a lot of conversations. I mean, you trust me. You've allowed me to speak into your life, and you definitely speak into my life. And you asked me like, so what do you got going on? And I'm like, I got all these bazillion things to do.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was planning on doing it in February. And so I had reached out to all these folks, ran into them at the LCI Congress in New Orleans, and just said, hey, I got an idea. And I mean, to my pleasure, they all said, yeah, let's do that. And I didn't really have the idea fully formed. But you said, wait a minute, Jess, like maybe you need to pause back and maybe do things with some time between them, because that's a lot of stuff. And I'm grateful, because had you not pointed that out, Davis, I would have attempted to launch everything back then. And I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm tired right now, and that's after adding several months to the plan. Which, folks, if you're out there in the Omniverse listening, the value of surrounding yourself with people that operate at a level beyond your own current level is tremendous. And that's why you, Davis, are one of the many people, along with everybody else, you're in my life for that reason, because there's many things about you that I aspire to be and invoke in my own lifestyle. So I'm grateful to you for gifting me with your time, for everyone that has and everyone that will, because we still got 2 more. But before, I want to do a housekeeping thing.
Yeah.
Have you done the stream to your...
I'm gonna do it real quick. That's
all right.
Save. Oh my goodness.
That's all right. Look at that. We got Adam. He says, never contort your message. Adam, you and I talked about this, right? It's like, oh man, I got to. So I just wanted a nice low friction experience for the viewers and for the presenters. Boom. All right. I see you there. You're up, Davis. Good. So, little housekeeping question.
Yeah.
Are you going to be like sharing screen, presenting anything? No?
I got some notes, but I think I'm well prepared. This is something I'm passionate about. I don't think it's going to take, I wish I could have 3 hours to spend with you here just talking about it. So
good. Well, we'll give you the visual indicator. I think Jason's up next. So Jason and I will come on at about 5 minutes towards the end. You can keep going, close your thought. Are you okay with me bringing in questions as they arise?
Yes, sir. Feel free.
All right, my brother. Well, I'm going to head out and the stage is yours, good sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Man, Jesse, just wanted to say thank you to start out. I'm not the best at taking compliments or taking anyone bragging about me, but you have taught me that. So I'm just going to say thank you for the opportunity to do this. Thank you to people here listening. I think from the majority of people that probably watch the live stream are going to be catching this on YouTube later, you see that the people in this lineup really care about people. And at the heart of Jesse Hernandez is someone that really just cares about people. So again, just thank you for the opportunity. Still trying to figure out how you got 12 of the best in the industry on, but maybe I'll learn that from you. So just really to get started, as you see, how to lead at an early age in construction. This certainly applies for people early on in their career in construction, but man, I think you can try to use this at any point in your career. Leadership, like I said earlier, is one of the things I just love to study, love to try to implement on the job site. One of the things that I'm extremely passionate about. So I'll probably say leadership and lead 1,000 times. And if I bore you with that, please just tell me to shut up about the word lead, because I'll continue to say it. But I just love what it means to figure another person out, and how can I help them, motivate them, drive them, how can I help them get to where they want to be in life. And so I think there's a stereotypical picture of what it looks like to lead in construction, right? When you think of leading, it doesn't just have to be a male or female, or the title. It could be an estimator, project manager, superintendent, all the plethora of roles that are in the construction industry. But when you think of a leader, majority of people probably think of that type A personality who's out in front, who's demanding, who's rallying the troops, right? And there's certainly, you can be someone that's out in front and rallying the troops, but there's this shift for what leading looks like, right? Especially in this industry. And I think that as we continue to grow and evolve, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people, especially if you're prepared to step into some of these leadership roles. And so this morning it was very strategic, but I put out this exact message. It's just 3 points about how to lead at an early age of construction. I just wanted to start out, one of the people that I just study, his name is John Maxwell. He says the first person you lead is yourself. So point one, lead yourself. Walker Lott, he's my friend, one of my best friends. He and I do the Laying Foundations podcast together each week, and we wholeheartedly believe in this model. If we can't first lead the person standing in the mirror, how am I expected to lead the other person, right? I can't ask someone else to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I'm the person that I have complete control over my own life. If I can't lead myself, I'm not going to be able to lead others. A few more things just really before we continue to get into this topic is, let's talk about what leadership is not. Some of the things that I found just from data and studying what leadership is. Leadership is not arrogant, it's not rude, it's not boastful, it's not self-seeking, it's not proud, it's not demanding its own way, and it doesn't delight in others' downfall. When you really think about that when I talked earlier about what the stereotypical model looks like, that's probably what you think a real leader is, at least from what I've seen in construction. The people that are out front, that's the leader of the job. Man, they are arrogant, they are rude, they are boastful, they are self-seeking, right? And how do we change and shift our mindset? Kind of what Miss Heather was talking about when she became an active listener. That last question we asked her was, you're going to change from what you think leadership is, and we're going to step into this new light of how you think, or how I believe you should lead. And to me, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. To me, leading other people is serving them. Jesse Hernandez is a great person that just loves to serve other people. He has a heart for people, and wants to learn how to serve them the best way. And I believe if you learn how to lead other people, you're really going to learn how to serve them. And so continuing down this line of leading yourself, we talked about it. You got to lead yourself first. Some of the things that isn't, you can't be arrogant, can't be rude. Now, getting into kind of the meat of this part, what are some of the ways we can begin to lead ourselves? And I just have 4 points, and then I'll have an analogy for us at the end of it. But just 4 things I thought of, man. Instead of being all knowing, be always learning. Choose to be a sponge and continue to learn from every person you come into contact with. I firmly believe if you're out on the job site today, you can learn how to do something and how not to do something every single day. But you have to be willing to be the sponge and take that information in and learn from other people. You have to be humble enough to say, I don't know. I need other people to invest in me and show me the way. I need to learn from every single person I come into contact on the job site. Another thing I think about what leaders do, man, great leaders seek counsel. It could be counsel that is, hey, I need mental health, right? we all know the construction industry is just the worst industry when it talks about mental health. We have the top industry that lacks that really have the highest rate of suicide, right? And so, man, maybe it's I need to go seek professional counsel. Maybe I need to go have someone help me just decrease the load, the anxiety, the stress that's going on in my life. And to me, it's more than okay to go seek counsel. Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." And so I'm the person that if I don't understand, I'm going to go seek counsel. Jesse's one of those people in my life that I go seek counsel from. Walker Lott's one of those people. My aunt Melissa Jackson that runs a leadership company is one of those people I seek counsel for. And man, I just firmly believe that if you don't have advisors in your life, if you don't have people speaking into you, how can you expect to lead yourself? You need people to help invest in you. Another thing is just um, I've seen some data from, I think his name was Mr. Nahar Trivedi. We had him on the podcast, and he just did an excellent paper on talking about how well how well we maintain our bodies in the construction industry. And so, if you think about it, the majority of tradesmen and women, and really just construction management folks, we don't have daily exercise, and it's not a priority in our life. Like if you think of the cyclical cycle, because there's going to be stress in construction. What's the first thing goes? Exercise, right? I'm stressed out. I don't have time to go exercise. And sometimes it's, I don't have time to go eat. I don't have time to have my morning routine, right? And then we just let the stress of work just come after us. But if we stick to my last point of a morning routine, um, but if we stick to working out, keeping our body in shape, man, it's one of those things that can really help you um, help and teach you how to endure hard things. It teaches you, um, it naturally decreases stress, right? It's some of those things that, we just get to look better. We get to look like Mr. Jesse Hernandez, just a stud of a man, the marathon runner. Daily exercise is proven to help in all types of aspects in our life. And it's one of the things that we often neglect. Another thing of how we lead ourselves. This is actually one of the things I learned from Mr. Jason Schroeder, the man that's coming on next. In his book, Elevating Construction Superintendents, he talked about it. His morning routine, right? And for some people, it may be one thing, and for others, it may be different. But some things it could just be I'm waking up early, I'm spending time in the Word. Some people might be praying, some people might be meditating, might be reading, might be working out, might be reflecting, it might be journaling. It's a mix of all those things on different days, right? But you have to establish a morning routine. And the reason I'm kind of talking about these 4 points is because someone told me the analogy of think of a cup, right? If you think of a cup, you have the opportunity to fill it or have it empty. For me right now, it's about half empty because I've been drinking so much water. But if you think of your cup every single day, and when I go out to that job site every day, I'm going to be stepping into a place where people are taking. And it's not taking in a bad way. It's not taking like a thief. It's taking because you're the leader on the job site and people need help. It's up to you to help guide and counsel other people. And so they're going to naturally be taking from you. And so if you never choose to invest in yourself, if you never choose to fill this cup up, every single day you go back to work, you're not going to be able to give that what you needed or what you're capable of. But if you pour into yourself, the 4 things that I've talked about, if you are trying to learn, if you're trying to get better at something, if you seek counsel from others, if you have daily exercise, if you have a morning routine, then that cup is overflowing. So every day when you go back to work, that cup's overflowing. I'm able to give more. I'm able to give more. And we're going to talk about the next step, but you have to learn how to just have a cup that's overflowing to help other people. Because if you don't, again, you're not going to be able to get to the next step. The next step really is just leading other people, right? So we first learn how to lead ourselves. And the second thing is we learn how to lead others. The true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's another quote from John Maxwell. If you don't know who he is, I would just encourage anybody in the construction industry to, if you're trying to learn how to lead, go find him. He has just a plethora of books that you can learn from. But he says that if leadership is influence, then what does influence really mean? How do you lead others and influence other people? You have great relationships, right? You have great relationships in all walks of life. And once you've learned that, once you realize that, my success can be determined about the amount of relationships and how deep those relationships are, you're really going to get to that next point, that third point we're going to be talking about. But one of the things I think about, John Wooden said, if you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And I think about that in my own life. I learned very quickly coming out of college from the Auburn Building Science program that if I wasn't prepared to answer tradesmen's questions, I'm going to get left in the dust. Like, people are just going to be willing to leave me back there. And not in a bad way. It's just, if I'm the person that someone comes and asks me a question and all I say is, I don't know. Well, they're just going to run by me and go try to find out the answer, because we have people in the industry that are producing at high volumes, that love what they do, that love to get after it, right? It's one of the things that just draws us to construction, to see the people that choose to work so hard with their hands. And the reason why, I'm able to have a job every single day is because there's tradesmen and women. But man, if you don't learn how to prepare before you go out to the job every single day, you're never going to have the opportunity to speak into someone's life. And I'll get into that later about how you lead others. But a few things that I learned, a few tips for our audience and the younger generation is, man, get to work early and just pick apart the drawings and the specs and the submittals, and just pick them apart. Just spend time. If it's in Procore, if it's in Plango, whatever software you use to go over the plans, pick them apart. Try to understand them the best way you can. Get there super early, because man, if you get that opportunity to get there early and spend time with your superintendent, that's going to be one of the rare times that superintendent isn't preoccupied. You can go asking questions and really learn, how you should be looking through drawings. What are some of the things that you do when you step into a new job? Another thing is take notes religiously, right? Like, my brain capacity is very, very thin because of all the stuff that I take in on a given day. And I promise you, if I don't ever take notes, I'm not going to remember what happened. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning because I didn't write it down, right? But if I take notes, I can go back and refer to it and go, this is what we talked about yesterday in the foreman's meeting. And don't just take notes, have a way to organize them. I organize my notes by, category of meeting. I have a folder for scheduled meetings, a folder for daily foreman's meetings. I have a folder by trade. I might have a folder by the different zones I'm supposed to be working in throughout the day. But we have to be learning how to take notes and be able to come back and refer to them. And if we can't refer back to our notes and understand what's going on from the day to day, again, we're not going to be able to prepare. I kind of talked about this, kind of reiterating, just staying up to date on the latest shop drawings, the stuff that's going on. This is all technical stuff, right? But the fourth thing, if you don't know the answer, be honest and tell that person you don't know the answer. But don't be the person that just says, I don't know. Be the person that says, go take it a step further and say, if I don't know the answer, I will find the person that can get you the answer, and be that person. Strive to be a problem solver and a people connector. And I say all these things. The first three was technical. The last one was just really advice, because as a leader, you have to understand that as a new person in the construction industry, you have to earn the right to speak into people's lives. I have to earn the right every single day to go talk to a tradesman and woman. And if I don't earn that right, they're never going to let me talk to them. And actually, going back to Miss Heather's comment, was the active listening and understanding and letting people know that they've actually heard you. If you've never spent the time to be good at your craft technically, you can't lead someone else. And so I would just challenge my younger generation, as much as we need to understand the people and the soft skills, we do have to learn the technical skills as well. We have to be willing to understand how to build things, and it's going to take a long time, but just continue to grow in that area. Those are some of the tips I have for that. But after you get past that point, man, I would challenge each person to understand. Go do a personality assessment. There's thousands of them out there, but go learn what your personality is. How you communicate. Go figure out who that person is across from you that you have an interaction with every day. Those foremen. Go figure out how you're supposed to lead them. What is their personality? How do they best take on or understand a message? And so, man, you have to figure out these people, and it's one of the funnest things. It's one of like my favorite things to do in the construction industry or in my job today is I get to go figure out what drives that foreman, right? I get to go figure out what he's good at, what he's not, and how I can help him and how I can counsel him. And maybe in that process, he's then willing to let me um, counsel him and coach him up and continue to get better. And it's just one of the most fun things I get to do on a daily basis. And so, kind of the last point, I'm getting into my third point. Really, it's just learn how to serve others. Jeff McManus said this. He wrote a great book. I think it was called Growing Leaders to Leaders. Um, his quote was, "Great leaders find ways to connect with their people, respect them, serve them, and make them successful." And I just think that so much of the leaders in my own life that have learned how to serve me. And if you think about this is kind of the whole point I've been working towards. Real leaders serve other people. Real leaders serve other people. There's not a lot of people who do that in our industry. If you learn how to take care of people in that way, in my wholehearted opinion, I believe that you're going to work yourself out of a job. If you're willing to serve the person below you and help them get to the point where they want to go, which is probably your seat, you get the opportunity to go to the next level. And people don't think of it that way. That's the model I was taught. If I can serve the person that's beneath me and help them get to where I'm at, I'm going to have the ability to go to the next spot, right? And it's just the model I've learned. But we don't think about that in the construction industry. We going back to the beginning, the stereotypical model, what leadership is. A lot of the people are arrogant, we're rude, we're self-seeking, and we don't think about the other person beside us. We just got to think about, man, we got to get this done by this scheduled date. If we don't hit it, something absolutely terrible is going to happen. But the secret to construction, how you lead, is serving other people. And one of the things I'll end on. One of the favorite things my Brad Finagori does. Man, we have a scheduled lunch every week and then a scheduled dinner at least once a month. And I learn more about the people on my job site in those scheduled lunches and dinners than I will ever on a job site from a day-to-day operation standpoint, because those people have so much distractions going on. I have so much distractions on a given basis, right? I get so many phone calls, I get emails. We're going trying to help a trade partner in a certain area of the building, right? There's so much going on in a given day. When we have those lunches and those dinners, you would be amazed at how awesome it is to just be with people, and the power of breaking bread and having a meal with someone. It sets everything else in place, and you get to have just vulnerable conversations. And every time that we've done that, we've continued to grow and get better. And in those lunches and dinners, man, I've learned how to connect to my team. I've learned how to respect them. I've learned how to serve them, and I've learned how to make them successful, because we get to that point, right? We've established a relationship. We trust each other. Going back to what Miss Heather said, talking about Adam Hoots and the circle of trust. When we get to a point on the job site where we've served other people and they now trust us, they now respect us, you have a job site that's really working together, all in one spot. And the person coming up next is going to be the king at helping people understand that. Mr. Schroeder, learned a lot from him and what he does. But just one more thing before I leave. There's this book called A Way of the Shepherd. It's written by Dr. Kevin Lehman and Bill Pentak. I should have given Jesse a link, but just an amazing book. It talks about the 7 secrets to managing productive people. And in one of those chapters that really hit home with me, it talked about discovering the shape of your sheep. So when you think about a shepherd, is someone that leads a bunch of sheep and they all are in one direction, right? And you have to figure that out on the job site. You have to be the person, or your team needs to be the people that lead everybody, and you have to be the shepherd, right? It's not someone that's domineering. It's someone that knows how to guide their flock. And it talked about this model. It's like SHAPE. It's an acronym. The S stands for strength. The H stands for heart. The A stands for attitude. The P stands for personality, and E for experiences. And so I'm just going to take that with me as I continue to grow in my career. But if you've never read this book, The Way of the Shepherd, I would highly recommend it. And use that SHAPE model. Learn someone's strength, learn someone's heart, learn someone's attitude, their personality, their experience. You're really going to do well leading people in our construction industry. So Mr. Adams said, "What do I do when no one listens to my message, but when my superior says the same thing, it works?" That's a great question. I love that. So for me, I would challenge yourself to go have a one-on-one conversation and figure out who that person is. Like, a lot of times when someone is that doesn't hear your message, it's because you haven't got to know them. I haven't spent time wanting to understand or even care about that person. And I have a story about this. I don't know if I have the time to share it, but I just expected everyone to know who I was when I came on to my first job site, and I was telling every people what they did wrong. And I'm just fresh college graduate, and these tradesmen have been in the industry for so long. They're like, "Who is this guy?" I don't care. But once I figured out that I needed to learn who that foreman was, man, you have to be willing to take that step and just be vulnerable and understand and go up to that foreman and say, "Man, I know I don't have the experience that you do. I'm hoping that you're going to be able to teach me that as we come on this journey on this job site. But what can I do to better serve you and understand you? How can I help you get better?" If you go do that to a foreman for a trade partner, he's going to be willing to do anything for you. They want to teach people. They want people to understand their craft. And that was a great question. I don't know if I answered that all that well.
Woo, baby. take you a glass. We got like we're gonna melt the internet right now with all the energy. How you doing, Mr. Jason?
How's it going, team? That was beautiful and inspirational. I love it.
Hey,
Oh,
Jason, man. How you doing, man?
You got me fired up. I feel like crying today. I'm all emotional. I'm all emotional, and Davis, you got me there again. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, I learned a lot of that from you. So I appreciate your time, what you've done for all the people in our industry.
oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. I always enjoy seeing both of you.
yeah, all good times. So, Davis, I gotta say this, and I mean it in a loving way. Like,
Uh
brother, you brought the information. You were like ultra prepared. Thank you for all the work that you did in preparing to give like the quotes. I can put the stuff up there. Folks out there in the Omniverse, I posted these links in the chat and I want to bring them up here because, again, I want to celebrate you, Davis. Here's one link that you shared for people to access and sign up to the Lane Foundation's newsletter. And here's another link that can you tell us about this link? Something about scheduling a call?
Yeah, I've been learning. Right now, I'm in the process of getting my life coach certification, and so I just am learning how to do that. But one of the things you challenged me, Jesse, was to, you don't have to have some certification or anything to coach someone. Be willing to just have a call and learn about that person and help them and struggle and fail and figure it out and just repeat it and get better, right? And so I've been trying for a little while to connect. I've been talking back and forth with a few students, but really just anybody that's similar age range, new to construction, wanting to learn what it takes to be a leader. I'm willing to have a conversation with you and just try it out and see if I can provide value for you.
Boom, there it is. So there's the link, folks. Sign up. I will attest to the value of Davis's coaching because he has coached me, and I am grateful for it. Jason, you got a thought, a question for our buddy up here?
Yeah, I do. When I was listening to you, I have two questions you can answer, either one, or you can do whatever you want because it's a free country. But so, what was one of the most impactful things a leader and mentor has done for you? And then here's the second one, which is maybe my favorite. Or what was the moment where a leader inspired you to be great? Meaning, so that then you could continue that legacy and then share with others.
Man, one of the most impactful things a leader's done for me was just give me the space to talk, right? Early in my career, again, I've had a way of what I thought it was like to lead, and I kind of shared that, but um, they sat me down and were willing to pour into me and invest in me, right? And for most people in our industry, they're busy, they're doing stuff, they don't have time to sit down and just schedule a meeting. But that person to me was sitting down, fully locked in, listening. And I can just think back to that conversation and what it meant to me. That was one of the most impactful things for me early on in my career because, again, there's not a lot of people pouring into you and investing in you. They just kind of throw you to the side, go figure it out. You'll get there one day, right, kid? But having someone that was willing to do that for me and just continue to have that call and continue to sit down, man, it was unbelievable. That's one of the most impactful. What was the second question?
So the other one was, what was one of the most impactful things the leader and mentor has done, or how did they inspire you? So they're probably the answer to your question hit both, but I mean, go ahead, whatever you feel like.
Yeah, one of the things I think that inspired me is seeing another leader lead the way that second model I was talking about, the humility way, the one that's willing to serve, right? There's a lot of people in the industry, again, they do a domineering way, but whenever I see someone that is humble, that is willing to be the leader that doesn't take any of the praise and give it to his team, but then is willing to take, the downfalls of the team. That's the thing that inspires me. There's a superintendent right now that I'm under that, man, that's how he leads. And that gets me fired up. Like it really does to see him go, hey, that's on me, guys. But whenever there's praise, y'all did a great job, right? That's the model I hope that people are starting to understand, the superintendent way of understanding that if we can get this team together and all in one direction, like I know that you're helping other people do, it's the model that needs to be in construction.
Boom.
Jesse, can I say something? 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just wanted to say, like, when you hear the offer to get on and do coaching, when Davis offers those things, I mean, that's a big deal. I remember one time Ryan Young was a project manager I was working with as a super, and we were doing a performance review, and I was with him and Derek, and he said in the meeting, he's like, Jason, you've done such a good job on this project, but I think you're going to change the industry. And I wasn't doing anything. And just those words just kept ringing through my head. And I love the thought of the definition of a coach. A coach, just like the actual physical carriage with wheels, moves someone forward. And so if anybody's even thinking like just that much, hey, I'm going to get on a call with him, please do it, because it's crucial to have someone believe in you and tell you can. So that's my only message. And I think it's super sweet that you're offering that.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you for that, Jason. So, Mr. Davis, you're going to have some homework because there are other questions in the comments that we didn't get to.
Okay.
Thank you for gracing us with your time and gifting the audience with that massive amount of information. It's all value, bro. And I'm grateful to you for doing that, my man. So we'll see you.
Thank you. Peace.
All right. So Mr. Jason Schroeder. Oh my goodness. What do you think?
I think it's been a sweet day. I'll tell you that. It's been a good day with lots of emotions, and I'm excited to be here. So,
man. Okay. So I'm fixing to take my face off the screen.
Okay.
Will you be doing any screen sharing or?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So as soon as you do the present thing, I'll put it up on the screen and then you'll be pushing the buttons and driving the wheel.
Okay. I am going to see if I can get that done right here.
Yep.
And
All good.
I'll just do entire screen and you let me know if it works.
This is what we're seeing.
All right. Well,
all right.
I'm up and ready to go. All right. 25 minutes on the clock, right? Okay. All right, everybody. I'm excited to be here, and thank you, Jesse, for inviting me. I'm going to talk to you about some really fun things here, but let me do a bit of an introduction. I love this picture. This is like my claim to fame. That's my partner, Kate, and my 11 kiddos. And I just have a beautiful family that supports me over here and all of the work that we're doing with Elevate. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background there. So I'm going to talk somewhat about living in and working in complex systems. So I do want to say that I have a little bit of experience working in complex systems with that many kids. So hopefully that's a resume builder or giving me some street cred here as I go. I also will say that I've been in the field for 23, 24 years, an actual superintendent in the field, made my way up through the ranks and was boots on the ground. Every single thing that I ever talk about in presentations or podcasts or YouTube videos are things that I've actually done. And if you ever hear me talking about something that's like a new idea that I haven't done, I specifically call that out. So these are boots on the ground. I'm not stealing that from Adam. Adam, I know you're watching. There's nothing like boots on the ground, but I'm just saying like these were experiences directly from projects being a superintendent. I also want to give a shout out to my partners. So Kate, there you see on the left is the CEO of our companies, and Kevin Rice is the COO. We are 3 equal partners of Elevate, Lean Tact, and Lean Superintendent. These are companies that we created to drive change in the industry. And we constantly invest back into content and things that would benefit the industry and that would provide cool research. So I want to give a shout out to them. I just don't know what I would do without them. So that's me. And I'll get right into my subject here. So we've heard a lot of really, really cool things from the presenters in this decentralized conference. We've heard about emotional intelligence. We've heard about tact planning. We've heard about how to be a leader. We've heard about integrating the last planners, and just so many wonderful topics. All of them are beautiful. All of them are perfect. And anybody that knows me knows that I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. And I do want to give a 20-minute overview about how those things can work as a system. But in 20 minutes, I can't really dig too deep. This is not a detailed training. This is just a, hey, these things work together as a system. And I learned most of my journey started with Adam Hoots and Hal Makeomer, forcing me to read books about systems thinking. And I know you've heard a little bit about that in this conference so far, but I want to talk to you about the integrated production control system. That's what I call it. Integrated because systems must be integrated. Production, because at the end of the day, that's what we're attempting to do from a financial standpoint. And control, this never means control people. It means control of the environment so that people can thrive. So I'm going to take you through that right now. But let me just say one thing. Think about an HVAC system. I talk about this all the time. But if the condenser went down on an HVAC system, what would happen? If the thermostat goes down, what happens? If somebody cuts the controls cabling, what happens? If somebody opens all the doors, what happens? There's so many components to a heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system. There's so many components, so many interconnected parts. There's a sequence of operations. If any particular component goes down, the whole system goes down. And I do want to say there's a lot when it comes to lean construction that work that way. They're not implemented as components all the time. They are sometimes, but a lot of times they're implemented as complex systems. And so if one goes down, the whole system goes down. So before I get into the topic at hand, this is a sketch that my daughter helped me improve. So I want to show you my philosophy when it comes to people and systems. So if project performance is represented by this line here, and you have a project or a company with underdeveloped systems, and you have people that we love and care about on the project, and we've heard a lot about in this conference, if we have underdeveloped systems, you'll see that the weight of the project, because we're attempting to push it up above that level of performance, really puts most of the load on the people. And it makes them struggle and strain and not be able to go home to their families on time. And I really don't like that scenario. And so there's another scenario also that really hurts people, and that's where we have rigid and oppressive systems, meaning so much paperwork, so many rules, so much bureaucracy, so much system and procedural components that there isn't flexibility, there isn't collaboration, there isn't adaptability. And so trying to keep that project above that performance line again right here is really difficult, and it puts a load on those people. So I drew the initial stick figure, and I like what Ava did when she redid the image here. You see the little squinty eyes and the strain, right? That's what happens to people if there's overdeveloped systems. Again, so underdeveloped, overdeveloped. So what we're looking for, and I did those hearts, just so you know, authentically, I did the hearts. Ava did the character. So if you have the right system, meaning you have a perfectly balanced system, meaning doing things that systems should do and not doing things that people should do, right? Then people and systems work together. People and process work together so that the load, you see, it's not over here on the person or the project team, it's in the middle, and people can go home on time. They can live a balanced life. They can do their job. They can do what they're supposed to be doing because systems work. So that's my mentality when I talk about people and systems. Everything you've heard in this conference so far about vulnerability, connection, leadership, all of these things have changed my life. And all I'm saying here is that if we also develop the systems, we will have remarkable project results. So this was also on a blog post recently on the Lean Builder. My homies over there at the Lean Builder, just love those guys and gals. This is what I call the integrated production control system. And if it looks confusing as I present it, that'll go away in just a second. But I want to show that whether we're talking about the first planner system or the system components or last planner or tax planning, it all, if you look at these arrows, it all should come filtered down to add value to who? So I want you to think about that for just a second. All systems on a project site or within a company should flow together not with resource efficiency, but with flow efficiency to who? And the answer that I would give is the workers and the foremen. So not only is it the right thing to respect workers and foremen, not only is it the right thing to make construction amazing for the people that work and build these wonderful structures, but from a business standpoint, everything needs to flow to the workers and foremen because they add value, they make the money. And so let me go through this pattern here one by one. So let's talk about the first phase. If you've probably heard about lean and scrum in design, you've heard about IPD, you've heard about remarkable pre-construction planning where you have the builders involved, you have early trade partner involvement, you have choosing by advantages, target value delivery, you have all of these concepts. Well, that's crucial to getting the value to the foreman because the first planners, meaning the first people in the planning cycle, must set a good deal and make a wonderful initial preliminary plan ahead of the foreman arriving on site. And so again, I'm going to go over this a little bit fast, a little bit high level, but I want to go through all of the different components. But I will say before I move on, in my opinion, 60% of a project win, meaning a successful project, happens before we ever put a shovel in the ground. Let's go to the second part, the team. So you've heard all of these wonderful concepts about how to build a team. Where does that come into play? Well, if we build the team, that means the project management team and the foreman and worker team, we really win over the workforce with great conditions, bathrooms and lunch areas and respectful communication and respect, right? And we have great onboarding systems. Then the foreman will have what they need. They will have the team and the people they need to do their job. The other component I want to talk about is the plan. If we have a remarkable project schedule, we've put those lean scheduling behaviors and needs that we have in the contracts for our wonderful trade partners, and we are tracking our risks according to that plan so that we can protect all of our partners. Then if you follow this arrow over, our foremen and workers have the right plan and expectations, and they can collaborate in the last planner system effectively. Let's go to the supply chain. If we have the right BIM efforts, coordination, and material procurement, the right information management systems and Scrum per Felipe's book, if we have the right logistics systems, getting the right things where they belong the first time, then our foremen and our workers will have the tools, equipment, materials, and all of the resources they need to go be effective and be productive on the project site. Let's go to the next one. Our culture. We can't forget our quality and our standards, what we expect. Our lean culture, which we've heard so richly about yesterday and today. And then individual and team balance. You heard topics like personal organization. You've heard how teams work. All of these components must come together to form a culture to where we have the capacity to support our foremen and workers in the field. And then the last one down here at the bottom is the basic training, role training, and the master builder training that we owe our people in construction so that they really have the skills they need to win on a construction project. Okay, so if you're getting bored of seeing this, let me go faster. Those all come together, the planning, the team, the plan, the supply chain, the culture, and the training into a visual last planner environment. I hear all the time, and it's a great question. There's nothing wrong with it. Should I use last planner on my project site or TACT? The answer is both. Like if we were designing a human body, do I want a circulatory system or do I want a respiratory system? Well, I want both because that's what they depend on each other, right? They're symbiotic, right? So we want our planning meetings, our weekly work planning meetings, our foreman huddles, our worker huddles, our percent plan complete. We want that environment to bring all of these system components together so that they can be in front of the last planners, our wonderful women and men in the field, to be a part of. Okay. Then we want to do that according to a TACT time, according to zones, and according to the TACT production system. If you do that, then you'll have foremen or crew leaders with a good plan, the right team, the right materials, the right culture, the right training, all brought together with visuals and a wonderful collaborative environment according to a flowable rhythm. And then I also mention accountability, meaning that about 60 to 80% of the people on our project sites will naturally do the right thing. Sometimes the other 20% might need a little motivation. So there's positive, respect-based accountability systems that will go into this. So my message here is, when you think of lean topics, you hear about target value delivery, you hear about risk and opportunity registers, you hear about last planner, you hear about TACT. They all go together into a system. And if you don't like the way I visualize it, then draw your own sketch. But it all works together. And here's my main point. If any of the system components break down, there is a fear or a reality that the entire system could weaken or go down, and that's when people get hurt. So let me take this from an actual graph. By the way, I'll give this to anybody who wants it. We share this all the time. It's also in the second to last Lean Builder blog post. But really, I would just like to invite us to look at and map these concepts as systems. So let me make a point here. After the first planner system, meaning after we design in pre-construction a wonderful plan with our trade partners, hopefully, as many as we can get on board, as many as foremen as we can get on board, with as many of the builders who will build the project as we can get on board, I would love to ask that our industry head in a direction to where we never break ground, ever, 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 until we have a master schedule with zone maps, until we have a remarkable way to track our material procurement, until we know logistically how we're going to get materials to our women and men in the field, until we've designed our trailer, our last planner interfaces, our boards, our huddles, our meeting systems, and the signage to keep everybody visually informed throughout the day, throughout the week, and throughout the project, until we've really developed a nice organization chart from a teaming and integrated standpoint, and until we know the risks and opportunities for that project. And so what I mean by this is, here's the message. You all deserve, if you're a superintendent, PM, engineer, anyone on the project site, foreman, you deserve to have the time to go work through and have buy-in and input on these things before there's ever a shovel in the ground. I mean, unless you're doing like 2 years of make ready for the site or something like that. But like before you go build, these things should be in place, because the team functions well when they can see the plan together. And so I just want to remind everybody, the team does not function if they can't see the plan. So we've got to see the plan so that the team can weigh in on the plan, buy in on the plan, and execute that plan together. Because over 60% of project success is determined before we break ground. So that means every project, from here on out, I mean, if you can't, let's do our best, right? So I'm not shaming anybody. I'm just saying, we as companies, we as leaders, we've got to get to the point where we have something like this macro level task plan that shows the whole project schedule on one page. You've heard about that in this conference. There are companies all over the United States and throughout the world that are doing this with massive results. They're able to get the entire team bought in, all of the wisdom of that team that they can see and say, and get everybody heading in the right direction. They should also have, and by the way, these images are compliments of Urban Core, a great company that we're working with, and they allow us to show these graphics. So it's a huge shout out to them. Also, a norm level tax plan, that's the day-by-day planning on the production level. Every project deserves that. Down here on the left, you'll see the logistics plan. This isn't just something that goes on the wall and remains static. This is how we plan with our foremen, with our women and men in the field, where things go so that we can enable them and their productivity, and then obviously our zone map. So I just wanted to show some eye candy here. You should have this visually with your input on it before we go to work. Also, before we go to work, a roadblock tracker like we're seeing up on the top, either on a log or on a map. A procurement log that will really track the different phases of our material procurement and align them to a tacted schedule. and then a risk and opportunity register, which enables us to know what our risks are and what our opportunities are, so we can always target them and have higher levels of success. This gives us data, information, visuals, and data give us an ability to see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. So I think it's just fantastic. So if you have that kind of planning and you've pulled in your trade partners and your last planners are on board, then you need to design your team and your trailer. Boy, I tell you what, you can really mess up a good plan if you do not get the team looking at the right things in the right place, right? So we're going to be in that trailer for a long time. Let's get that team pulled together. Let's get those visuals put together. Let's design that trailer in a remarkable way, right? I remember in systems thinking there's an 11th commandment. I won't remember it exactly, but it's like, thou shalt not distort, inhibit, or restrict communication in any way. Complex systems work best when communication systems are free to work properly. And then also your workforce care plan. How are you going to take care of your people? How are we going to respect folks? How are we going to take care of their lunch? How are we going to take care of their basic needs, like their restrooms? How are we going to make sure the site's clean? How are we going to make sure that workers and foremen are delighted and just amazed at coming to the project site? One time, a worker told me, he said, coming to your project feels like Disneyland. How are we going to reverse the trend that we have in this industry of pissing everybody off, treating them like crap, and basically communicating we don't want them here, and then complaining that they're not here? How are we going to reverse that? By actually saying, I want you here, right? Saying I love you ain't enough. Show me, right? How are we going to show our people that we want them on our project sites? All of that should be designed in pre-construction as a part of your lean system. So I want to close out strong in the next 5 minutes. I will say that all of these components of the plan come together in your last planner environment. And I just love this graphic, right? When does your team come together to strategically plan and look at your master schedule and your procurement for the job? When do you huddle your trade partners to create a weekly work plan? When are you going to huddle with your foreman, your crew leaders, to do planning on a day-by-day basis? When are you going to huddle your workers, all hands, every day, to communicate and connect with them? And what does that flowable system look like? Because no schedule, no plan, no visual, no coordination means anything unless we can get it from the supers and PMs to the last, and with the last planners and the foremen, and all the way to the workers, so everyone on the project can, see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. By the way, I stole that from Lean Core. I love that saying. And then any roadblocks from that system back to the project team. So I hope you can see, as a part of the system, all of these components that we must deal with as a part of a great project. The key is to get that knowledge through all levels of teams to where they weigh in and buy in, they feel respected, and they know for a fact that they're a part of the team and they have total participation. So I love this thought here. The first planning documents, right? The things that we developed inside the pre-construction effort, right? Hopefully we'll have to make it to a point where we have the pull plan. That educates the master schedule, our look ahead plans, our weekly work plans, and our day plans. And this day plan and these logistics plans have got to make it all the way to the workers on a daily basis so that they can be respected and we can make production on a continual basis. And so these environments, like this one, that's my buddy Jake Smaley over there in Rizwan. That's when we were running the BSRL project. This is a picture of us getting that information to the foreman. And then this is a picture of Jake the next morning, and I'm behind the camera, leading a mass worker huddle where everyone every day is told what the plan is listened to and asked what they need, and we connect with them so that we aren't just a team of 13, we're a team of hundreds. So the question I want to ask everybody is, through your lean systems, are you getting all lean systems, all vulnerability, all connection, all of the clarity, all of the flow, all the way to the people that matter to us so much? And this is a beautiful picture explaining what I'm getting at. Like I said, I've done it in the field. It works. It works like magic. That was probably, you see over here to the right, no trash. There's no trash on that whole project. Why? Because everyone on that project, even though it sounds cliche, knows that they're loved, knows that they're cared for, and they believe in something great, and they identify with the mission of that project. So this whole system, when you pull all lean components in your own way, you don't have to use my way, your own way, into a lean system, you're getting your wonderful foremen, the women and men in the field, the expectations, the materials, the layout, the information, the plan, the stability, the respect, all the way to the point where it matters the most, where people who are respected will respect your building, and everyone makes money and can live a remarkable life. And so I'll close out strong by saying, if you're enacting those last planner systems, it must be done on a flow according to the tact production system. And that means that trades are going the same on the same plan, the same direction, the same sequence, with leveled crews, with the same amount of work in each zone, at the same speed, the same distance apart. And so we can implement all of the system components, and if we don't put in tact planning or the tact production system, we will not achieve the level of production that we need. And we really want people to feel like they're winning and know that they're winning. So we must involve the tact system, because that's when we can start to plan it first, build it right, and finish as we go, and work in what's called one piece or one process flow. So if you ever get a chance to learn about tact, steering, and control, I would invite you to do so, because it pairs perfectly with Last Planner, and it enables you to actually achieve flow in the field. And I just want to leave you with this one last graphic here. Everything really comes down to, can the foreman and the workers in the field, at their zone in the field, really drive production by preparing out ahead and finishing as they go, and having a connection with the project leaders on site. When we have a tacted system paired with Last Planner and respected people, they can go do their job and win every day in day-tight compartments and zone by zone. And so I don't have time for some of the bonus content that I prepared, but I will leave you just with this last concept here, that a remarkable project really comes down to, it's not did we finish on time, it's was there a great culture? Was the team happy? Did the team members meet their career goals? Are the owners and designers raving fans? Were each trade partner and contractor successful? Was it built with quality? And did we meet our budget targets? And so to meet that, you'll have to implement your project as a lean system and look at it from a systems thinking perspective. And so I've enjoyed this with you all today. I hope you've gained something from that. And Jesse, thank you. Let's take it away, my brother.
Jason, Ron, what do you think, Walker?
Man, he crushed it, dude. I think if anyone applied this to their job site, the construction industry would be a completely different space.
That's awesome.
Incredible.
Yeah, totally.
Would you tell me that even if I tanked it?
Yes.
No, man.
Okay. Jesse's like, we got to advertise the show anyway. I'm hoping you're right.
No. You know, Jason, I had full confidence that you were going to bring it, because you and I got to interview you on the OG Spotlight, and we got to live stream that, and that was like fire. And so I just knew, Jason, you want to be in? You said yes. I said, all right, he's going to bring some A game that's going to be very valuable for people. And to echo what Walker said, it's like, if working in that direction, right? Do we have to do it all tomorrow? No, we got to learn. But after we learn and apply and gain some level of mastery, we will transform the industry. We'll transform the experience for the humans that are out there doing the damn work. And so there's a question, there's a comment and a question I want to share with you before we transition to Mr. Walker. So Ian Smith says, if you gave me $1, I would invest 99 cents into the crew leaders. Which, is that not like a summary of the visual that you showed? All of those systems are serving the crew leader.
Amen. Amen. And I'll just shout out, you can't see it with my camera, but elevating construction foremen and crew leaders. Dang it, I wish I didn't have the background, but I totally agree. The projects rise or fall based on the support of the foreman. I just totally agree. I love it.
Oh, man, I'm gonna find that link and I'll drop it in the chat. And while I do that, Here's Adam's question to you, Mr. Jason. What's the most challenging part of the integrated production control system for Jason? And why do you work so hard for this industry? Damn.
Okay, I'll hit that fast. The hardest part is for project leaders to hold people accountable. And I'll just do a little image on both of my hands here. We were taught punishment systems mostly in school, and when we were growing up, you mess up, I'm going to punish you, right? But really, there is a way to hold people accountable with respect. There's a huge difference between, hey, bud, we need to go back to the trailer and go back to orientation to get you oriented and trained. There's a big difference between, man, I'm mad that you're not wearing your fall protection, I'm going to punish you, versus, I care about you and your family, and I'm brave enough to go do the right thing. Hell, I'll go with you, right? And so people will not hold others accountable if they think it's punishment. So getting project leaders into the mindset of, no, you have to really believe and care about the people. That's when they get into the respect realm. That's when they'll actually hold project standards and keep it clean, safe, and organized, and protect and defend people. That's the hardest part.
That's it, my friend. We'll transition on. Ian says, set yourself apart and create an extraordinary experience for people in the construction industry. Jason, I know you're doing that, and you're out there helping people do more of that. Sir, I appreciate your time. And most of all, I appreciate the trust that you gifted me and this decentralized conference, because it was not all clear. We didn't exactly know what was going to work, how was it going to work, what kind of and you still came through, man. I appreciate you very much, Jason.
Love you.
Yep. Peace. Uh-oh.
What up, dude?
So you're bringing us home there, Mr. Walker. How you doing today?
Man, I don't know why or how I'm going to have to follow up everyone the past 2 days. You picked like the worst guy to do it, man, but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. That was awesome. Everyone has brought it all day long.
All day
long.
Ooh,
and
man.
Yesterday too.
Yeah. So this is day 2. Your
day
last
2,
one up. I appreciate you for bringing us home. There's a plus delta thing there, folks. Share your feedback. Share it in the comments. We want to see if this was a meaningful experience for you. Mm-hmm. So housekeeping question: were you able to connect your thing to wherever you want to stream to?
Yes.
Yep. Magical.
It says there's too many the max guest destinations right now, but
okay, that's what I need to know. Let me disconnect somebody. I can't disconnect you. Oh, I know which one. Disconnecting, removing.
Man, you've been doing a marathon the past 2 days. How are you feeling?
Dude, well, I'm going to take notes, because you know what I forgot to do is, okay, so you should be able to start linking your thing, and I'll bump my gums while you're linking it. I forgot to eat before we started today.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been snacking on banana chips here. That was breakfast and lunch for me today. But honestly, man, the way, what is the question you asked for, like, what has it been like for me? And maybe another little plug for the idea that we had around the decentralized conference. The idea, it was, we're going to do this back-to-back people. We're going to have some handoffs, and you please speak about the thing you care about the most. That was it. Everybody got to choose whatever they were going to talk about. And just the amount of intentionality and the heart and focus on people that came as a result of you and everyone else speaking about what they care about most just reinforces the fact that I have some pretty damn amazing friends. And you're one of them, Mr. Walker.
Hey, that's what construction is about, man. It's about the relationships. It's about the people.
That's it, my friend. And what I like is you're going to be talking about listening, learning, and leading with questions.
That's right.
And questions are a very, very dear subject of mine. So before I get off the screen, Are you going to be sharing anything, or you just
Nope,
going to
just talking. Y'all just have to look at my face, unfortunately.
All right, my brother. Well, I'm going to take off, and the stage is yours, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Well, first of all, guys, thank y'all for letting me be able to talk to you a little bit. And thank you, Mr. Jesse, the Silver Fox, for allowing me on. Really cool opportunity. Don't know why you picked me, but I appreciate it. And then, as Davis talked about earlier, it's just some incredible guests, including, Jason, who we just had up. And like you said, well, appreciate it, Davis. So today, what I'm talking about is listening, learning, and leading with questions. And I have to give a shout out to Miss Melissa Jackson. She is Davis's aunt. We talk about her a lot on the show. She's been highly impactful for both of our lives, especially in the realm of just starting, laying foundations, and getting out to where we are today. And so her and her partner at Eagle Center for Leadership really coined the term of listen, learn, and lead with questions, right? And so just to give you a backstory of who I am, but really who Laying Foundations is, and kind of where this all started, right? Davis and I met at Auburn, got together. Davis is like, man, we should get a podcast going. What you think? I said, yeah, let's do it, man. And then from there, we really started thinking about what does the construction industry need, and how can we, as just two young guys who really haven't been in it. I was still in college. Davis just got into the industry. So how can we take what we barely know and use it to our advantage, right? And we realize that it's not us that are going to be able to really give all the advice and the leadership, but it's going to other people and getting their wisdom, getting their knowledge, getting their leadership, and being able to broadcast it to the next generation. And so what we found, right, is that as more and more of the older generation are retiring at a rapid time, it's faster than people are coming into it. All that knowledge, all that incredible skill and wisdom and advice is leaving with it. And that's a problem, because the next generation that's coming in is going to miss out on that. And through that, you're going to have lower quality. You're going to have people who just don't know exactly how the older guys used to do it, right? Because they've been doing it for so long. Now there's this new 20-something-year-old, even 30-something-year-old who've been doing it for maybe 5 years, even 10 years, but not 50, right? Not 40 years. And the problem is, a lot of the people coming in, and this used to be me, right? We didn't want to ask questions, maybe because of pride, maybe because of arrogance or timidness, or we just weren't sure how. We didn't want to be vulnerable. And so through all this, Davis and I discovered, well, how do we equip the next generation of builders? How do we bring what we don't know, what the younger generation doesn't know? And how do we teach those who are coming into the industry to learn and grow through the older generation? And you do that by listening, by learning, and by leading with questions. So first point, listening, right? You hear it all the time. It's easy to do, but not a lot of people do it. Everyone wants to hear themselves talk. And I know that I'm one of those guys. And it's easy because you feel like you have a lot to say, but the moment that you can just slow down, you can stop for a moment, and you can just listen to what someone else is saying, you'll be able to gain way, 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 way more knowledge and wisdom and advice and insights that you never thought possible, right? So what are a few ways that we can listen better, especially being younger, especially being this up and coming generation to the construction industry? Well, one way is to eliminate distractions. I know for me personally, I'm really bad at checking my phone. I'm bad at like trying to scroll through it. If I get a ding, I can look at it. I want to see who it is, right? I want to see if it's important. And I sometimes do that when I'm talking to someone, and that's no bueno. For you to be someone who truly wants to value the person that you're talking to, you need to eliminate that distraction. Because if you're talking to someone, especially a guy who's been in the industry for a long time, and all of a sudden you look at your phone, you kind of look around, you get distracted, they're going to think that you don't really care about what about what they're saying. And they might just shut down. They'll just stop talking or end the conversation there. And you could have just missed out on a ton of different things, right? You should be laser focused on what that person is saying, because it's not only going to help you process more of that information that's come into it, but it's going to allow them to know that you actually care about what they have to say, that they're not just blowing smoke. They're not just talking to talk and have you forget everything that they just said immediately after you finish, right? They know that what they're saying is valuable to you, and therefore you can take that later on and use it, and you can share that with someone else, and you can pass that down the line. And maybe when you're 50 years old, you're able to go to someone and say, look, I know a guy that taught me this when I first started construction, and I want to be able to give it to you. the next way you can listen more intently, you can listen better, is to ask questions, ask follow-up questions. And again, easier said, not a lot of people do it. The way you ask follow-up questions, right, is one, you have to be focused. You have to listen to them. You have to know what they're saying and pick things that you might not understand completely. And don't be afraid to admit that you don't understand it. I know for me, if I'm talking with maybe my PM or maybe one of the trade partners in the field and they say a word that I think I should know, it's easy to gloss over it and nod your head and say, yeah, no, right, that thing, pretend like you know it. But if you can stop there and say, well, what is that exactly? What's the word that you just asked or said, or what's the topic that you just approached? Because I'm not too familiar with it. Can you go in depth on that a little bit? That could completely change the conversation right there. People love talking about what they're passionate about. If you ask a carpenter to talk to him about how to make a better miter joint, or how did he measure this opening and get it perfectly right every time, right? The littlest of things. They're going to go in depth and they're going to teach you something that you don't know. Ask a follow-up question on, well, how exactly did you install the soffit over there? Or how exactly did you put that steel in? You'll be amazed at what knowledge and advice that you can get from those people by just asking them and continuing to ask, right? And this goes into asking questions at the end of it, and we'll get more in depth on that later. All this ties in together. Number 3, how do you listen better? Rephrase what they say. At the end of the day, someone just wants to know that you got it. They wants to know that the advice that you had asked, that whatever they were talking to you about, that you actually understood it, that you actually heard it and you processed it, and you can take that and then push it down the line to someone else. And so once they tell you something, once they're talking to you, rephrase what they said. So really what I understand is you said blank, 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 or you're talking about this, that, and the other, right? And if they agree with you, then you got it. It's locked in your mind. You understand. And if you're completely wrong, they'll be able to rephrase it again. And it's only to your benefit that you actually got that information once they rephrase it, right? Rephrase it again once they just said it. See if you actually got it over and over and over and over until the conversation ends. Because at the end of the day, you need to learn from every single person on the job site, especially your first 0 to 5 years in construction. Those are incredibly important because they're going to set the foundation for the rest of your career, right? It's kind of like when you're a child and 0 to 5 or 6 or 7, whatever the age is, it's really easy to learn new things. It's easy to learn a new language. It's easy to learn how to do something. It's the same way in construction. You're going to have a massive amount of info just being thrown at you daily. And so if you can listen, if you can learn, if you can lead with questions, it's going to make a tremendous impact on your career. Davis asked a question. What do you do when you can tell someone doesn't understand what you're communicating to them? Great question, Davis. I've had that many times, right? At that point, you kind of have to stop and rephrase what you're saying. Ask them, hey, did what I just say to you make any sense? Can I say it a little different way to help you understand it? Maybe there's a language barrier. Maybe they're speaking Spanish, right? And you're speaking English, but you can kind of communicate. Can you point to something? Can you help bring in someone to communicate it better? Can you ask the question in a different way? Try multiple things in order that you're speaking the same language. Don't give up easily, because it's really easy if someone's not getting it to say, oh, never mind, and you walk away, right? It takes time, it takes practice, it takes intentionality. Point number 2, learn. How do you learn better? By being in the stream. I just mentioned it, right? The first 0 to 5 years, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a massive amount, and you're not going to be able to remember it all. But some of the things that you can do, right, is you can, again, I'll use an example as a project manager or talking to your project manager. We had an internship. I was in Nashville, was working for Layton Construction, right? Johnny Green, he was one of our first guests on the podcast. He said something profound. Davis mentioned it earlier, right? But in order to progress in your next position in the industry, right, you have to learn how to do it. And so if you are a assistant PM, you have to learn how to be a project manager. If you're a project manager, you have to learn how to be a senior PM. If you're a senior PM, you have to learn how to be a project executive. And doing that revolves listening, revolves learning, revolves leading with questions. You have to be able to soak in every single thing that they're asking you. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. One way is to have a great attitude about it, because no one wants to teach someone with a bad attitude. No one wants to help someone if they're not interested. No one wants to pour into someone on their job site if they just come in every day and they don't talk to anyone, they don't develop a relationship, they don't ask questions, and they just leave at the end of the day without you ever getting to know them anymore, right? So have a great attitude when you wake up every day, when you get to the job site. You might not have a great attitude every single day of the year because we're humans, things happen, right? But have a better attitude more times than not. Another way. Oh, here we go. Adam Hoots. What happens after I start leading with questions? We'll get to that, right? But in order to lead with questions, you have to be a good listener. You have to be a good learner. Because if you can't listen well and you don't learn well, then how are you going to ask them good questions? It's all about asking the right questions, good questions, and not just pointless. It's easy to say, oh, cool. Why is that color red, right? Or you could say, well, how did you get to this point to where you were able to establish this benchmark on the elevation? I don't know. Think of a way to better lead someone with questions. And by doing that, you have to understand the entire topic. Another way to learn is be willing to let someone pour into your life. We kind of just talked about it a little bit. It's about having a great attitude. It's about being willing to be someone who wants to know about someone else's life. You need to find a mentor. Jesse is a great example. He's a wonderful mentor. Same with Adam. Same with Jason. Same with a lot of different people on here who have already spoken to you. Miss Jen, Thomas, you name it. I don't want to leave anyone out. They're all incredible mentors to us at Davis and I at Laying Foundations because they're willing to pour into us, right? And the more they pour into it, the more we're open to it, the more we learn, the more we're able to grow and help someone else. Another way to learn is listen with great intent and focus. We talked about in the first point, laser focus on who you're talking to. Because if you're dozing off, if you're looking behind them, if you're thinking about what you're doing in the afternoon, if you're thinking about, oh, what time is it? Oh, what do I need to be doing? Is my phone ringing? Am I going on a date tonight? Right? If you're thinking about something else while you're talking to someone, while they're trying to teach you, you're not going to learn very well. Focus and intentionality on what you are talking to someone about is the only way that you're going to grow and learn and lead, because it takes intense focus to learn new things, especially if it's a topic that you think you already know, right? I'm in project management. Davis is in field supervision. He's a superintendent. If one of us goes up, and maybe it's something we've done 100 times, like an RFI or submittal, and I might think I know all of it, it's easy to gloss over that off of something you've already done and just be like, I don't need to know any more about that. I've already learned it. But if you're intentional about listening to everything someone has to say, if your PM comes to you and talks about a submittal or talks about this RFI and how to do it better, if you can just instead put away your pride and focus on them and what they're saying and be like, I might not know everything there is to know about submittals or RFIs, even though you might have done it hundreds of times. There's always something new to learn. Focus with intentionality and intense focus, right? Sorry. Another way to say that. And listen to what they have to say, and you will be surprised at all that you can learn. Leading with questions. I got 3 more points. How do you better lead with questions, right? Adam asked the question earlier. One way to lead with questions is, in order to do that, you need to have at least somewhat of a relationship with that person for it to truly mean something. You can lead with questions with some you never know. I like to ask people a lot of questions, even the people sitting on the plane seat next to me that I don't know, right? What do you do? How do you have a family? Where are you going? Where are you coming from? But in order to truly lead with questions and be a leader and to make an impact on your job site, you need to have a personal relationship with those around you. If I go up to a foreman and I try to get him to do something, he's just going to look at me and be like, okay, and maybe not do it and maybe walk away. Whereas if I know him personally and we have a relationship and we talk about how he likes to play golf, or we talk about how he got into the industry, or we talk about his personal time, what he do on the weekend, and I have a problem come up and I say, hey, dude, this just happened. I know it's a pain in the butt, but could you help me do X, Y, Z? Even though it could be difficult, it could be easy. they're more likely to do that if you've been leading with questions this whole time, right? Because the first time you meet someone, you're probably not going to need something from them. It's going to be later down the line. It's going to be something that happens in the project that you need to say, hey, dude, this has happened. I need a big favor, right? And in order to do that, you need to lead with questions in the first place. You need to ask them who they are. What do they do? What's their family life like, right? Another way to do that is to just go to someone in the field that you've never met before and ask what they're doing. Hey, dude, what are you doing right now? And why are you doing it? And not in a manner of saying, well, why are you doing that? Why are you doing it that way? You're doing it wrong, right? It's saying, hey, man, teach me what you're doing. Show me exactly why you're doing that, because I want to learn. I don't know as much about welding mechanical pipes, maybe. Like, why are you going this way? Why are you pushing a puddle the opposite way? Or why are you installing hangers like that? Or why are you putting in windows like that, right? You're always going to learn something new when you ask a skilled trade professional who's really good at what they do, why they're doing it and how they're doing it, and how you could do it better as someone who's never done it before, maybe, right? And the final point of how do you lead with questions is go to them from a standpoint of what can you do better as someone who is leading them as a general contractor. We're speaking from a general contractor's point of view because that's what I work in currently. If you go out to a tradesperson, you say, hey, man, you're doing a great job. I love all that you do. You have just crushed this whole project. What can I do to help make your life a little easier? What can I do to help make your job just a little bit simpler during the day, right? Are you getting enough info from the architect? Am I pushing the RFIs through fast enough? Are we making it too hard on you with maybe what Jason talked about? What system can I employ to make your life a little easier? Can we get more porta potties? Can we put more questions on? That's right, Chewy. Interested questions. You want to ask people things that are going to get them excited. You want to be fully invested in their life. And in order to do that, you have to ask questions. You have to develop a relationship with them. You have to listen. You have to learn. You have to do everything that every single person on this decentralized conference has already said. And you have to do it better and better every single day. Because like Ian just said, if you can make work not as hard, if you can make showing up, or Jason, what Jason just said, if you can make showing up to the job site like Disneyland a little bit easier every single day, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing at the work that gets done, at the attitude of the people on the job site, at the relationships that you build, and at how successful your project is. Because at the end of the day, people are the most important. They are the priority. They are the people that show up every day and actually build the building. As a GC, we don't build the building. We help it. We push people forward. We provide the resources. We do everything there is to do, but we don't swing a hammer. We don't weld pipes. We don't dig in the ground, right? We don't pour concrete or lay rebar or you name it. The people in the field are the ones who actually build the building. So how can we make their life better? How can we listen to them? How can we learn? How can we lead with questions? And that's the big part of what Davis and I have seen as young guys in the construction industry, right? We've talked to people who have had problems with newer people in coming up through the ranks, who think they know it all, who don't know anything about what they're talking about, but they're trying to direct a foreman who's been doing it for 40 years on how to do something better, right? Even though this might be their second year on the job. I know a foreman who told me that they had one or two guys who were just fresh off the college graduation, just got to the job, and they walked up to him and they said, hey, you need to do this way. You need to go and do it XYZ, and that's how I want you to do it, right? And as a foreman who doesn't know them, who has never met them in their life, and who's also been doing it 40 years, kind of made him a little bit mad, right? And so he did it that way, and it ended up being wrong. And he got the blame, and so did the new person in the industry. They also got the blame too, because they did not have that relationship of working together. Instead, if they had that relationship, if they had been listening and learning and leading with questions this whole time, that new guy could have came up to that foreman and said, hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z. How do you think we should do it? And that foreman is going to tell you exactly how they think you should do it. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's your call. But if you're not relying on the people in the field to teach you, to show you what the best way to do it is, your project's not going to be successful. because our job's not to tell someone how to build. Our job's to build a relationship with them instead. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I'm 2 minutes early, but Jesse, dude, this has been awesome. We appreciate everything that you've done with this. Sorry if I rambled on. I'm trying to get my thoughts in order. But this is something that Davis and I are really passionate about. It's just the people of the industry. How can the younger generation make it better? How can we make the industry better coming up? Because everyone's leaving. And so it's gonna take some replacement. It's gonna take some learning. It's gonna take people who truly want to build those relationships.
Yes, we have. Well done, my friend. And we got some questions for you. So
All right,
I'm going to hit you with the Sidewinder question. Ian asked this question of Davis earlier. We weren't able to answer it live. So here's a question for you. What do you think is the biggest constraint for young leaders in the construction industry?
I think the biggest constraint comes personally, it comes internally to a lot of people. Because as a young guy in the industry, what do you want to do when you get there? You want to prove yourself, right? You want to be someone that everyone can rely on. You want to be that 20, 30-year veteran, and you're in your first year. But I think a lot of it has come down to how can you humble yourself enough? How can you get that pride out? There you go, self-seeking. How can you take away what you think you should know and instead just try to learn something new every day? Davis is the master of asking questions on the job site to people. He goes around, that man probably asks 200 plus questions a day to all the foremen, to all the laborers, to everyone. He's incredible at it, right? He's put down his pride. He's put down what he should know or thinks he should know. And even at the risk of looking stupid for asking a question, he's still going to ask it. And that's what every young person should be trying to do, especially in their first couple of years in the industry. Even if you know something, even if you know about how a mechanical riser is supposed to work, right? Ask your foreman. Because what's been really cool, not being braggy or arrogant or anything, right? But what I found is that the more that you get to know these the workers on your job site, the more you get to ask questions of them. When they come to you, you can instead work together on things. I had a foreman come to me and say, hey, here's this problem, right? And we were able to work through it together. And by each of us asking questions, we came up with a solution that worked for everyone and actually worked better than the solution that was previously proposed.
Yes.
And so if you're able to do that as a young person, develop these relationships, put down your pride, ask questions daily, it's going to be really, really cool over the next few years what that starts to look like with the people on your job site.
Amazing. You're getting hit with questions. So I got some more questions for you folks. Just letting you know that little QR codey thing there. It's going to take you to a Plus Delta app where you can leave your name or not, use a fictitious name, and let us know what was valuable, what can be improved, ideas, everything, all of the above are welcome. And so Adam Hoots asks, how does leading with questions relate to your faith and religion?
Man, that's a good one, Adam. That's a really good one. I think for me, and it goes back to the pride and arrogance part, right? I used to be incredibly prideful. It runs in my family. I still got it, right? But in order for me, I've been humbled a lot in my life. And so in order for me to continue not growing in the pride and arrogance, but instead growing in the humility, I have to ask questions. I have to get humbled, because the moment that I think I know something biblically, spiritually, or career-wise, personally, professionally, the moment that I think I made it, or that I think I'm there, or that I think I know something, I get proven wrong. And it's embarrassing, right? In order, if you are confident and you just blurt out an answer and you say, oh, we need to do it this way, and someone comes in and says, really it's not the right way to do it. It needs to be done this way, and this way, right? That's going to hurt. It's going to hurt your pride. And that might have been the way you did it on a last job site, but not this one, you know? And so same way biblically, if you come in at someone and maybe it's someone who doesn't believe in the Lord, doesn't believe in Jesus, and you come at them saying, well, it's this way or the highway, or it's this or that, right? And you don't truly get to know them, and you don't ask questions as to why they believe what they do, you're never going to be able to connect with them and lead them the right way, or grow them in their walk with the Lord, right? if you just come in there hard and you don't learn with them, you don't ask questions, and you don't listen to them, you're never going to be able to connect with anyone, personally or professionally.
Poof, gangsta. Well, since you're just handling them like no big deal, here's a tough one. Hey, us Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer too, brother Ian. We're still here. What can we do for your generation?
Man, Ian, great question. Y'all are doing it. A lot of you are, right? And I think there is some who have a mindset of figure it out. I'm not going to help you. I think there is a great time to say figure it out, but it's figure it out. And then once you think you know, come to me, run it by me, and let's talk through it together. Right? If you're a foreman who has a new guy on the crew and the new guy asks you, maybe it's a stupid question in your mind, maybe it's something that they should know, like we talked about earlier. How do you put a drill bit in a drill, right? If you just say to them, figure it out, I'm not telling you. What if they do it wrong, right? It's hard to do that wrong, but what if they do it wrong and then they get hurt?
Yeah.
Figure it out. How do you think we should do it? Let them try it and then have them come to you. And if they did it wrong, teach them. Or if they did it right, say, great job. Here's an even better way you can do this. It's really just, how do you develop that relationship? How can you help someone even if you think they should already know something? I think that's really what the younger generation wants. We want feedback, right? Especially the new guys coming in. More so than anything, we just want feedback on if we're doing it right. Like, how can we do it better? Are we doing this okay? Like, did I do a good job? I didn't see that question that just popped up. It went away, but there you go. That's it. Give them good feedback. Keep giving them feedback. That helps us tremendously. I try to go to my PM every week or two or a few weeks and say, hey, what can I do better? Like, what am I doing well? What am I doing poorly? And what can I do better? And if you are a guy that can go to the new guy in the industry or on your team or whoever and say, look, man, ask me questions. Don't be afraid to ask a stupid question. And go to them and say, hey, can we just talk about how you've been doing? Like, this is what you're doing good. This is what you're not doing well. And this is how you can do it better. And if they truly want to get better in the industry, they're going to take that advice, right? And they're going to try to apply it to their job. And so in like a month or two, when you come back and say, hey, this is what you're doing well, hopefully on the last list, what they were not doing well is now on what they are doing well. And you can find something else that they're not doing great and help build them up. And so in a few years, they're crushing it because you've been able to teach them and train them daily on what to do better.
10-4. All right. So Walker, I'm going to hold you hostage because I may need you to fill some blank time while I get choked up. But folks, everybody out there in the Omniverse, thank you for all the time that you've gifted us. If you watched the whole thing, if you caught pieces of it, if you're watching the replay, if you're sharing it, if it was shared with you, thank you for the time. We had a whole host of amazing people. And so people, I've been asked like, what's the whole point of this? Why are you doing this? And one, like just the superficial straight up, got a book, right? It is now available. It is my first book, Becoming the Promise You're Intended to Be. How did I go about selecting these people? I selected them because they have helped me stay on the path to becoming the promise I'm intended to be. I had high hopes for what could happen by assembling this group of people, taking on this new crazy experiment that, as Adam says, like we didn't know what it was going to work out to. We don't know what the future implications are. We didn't know if anybody was going to show up. But I believe this group of people sharing their knowledge and expertise and heart and soul through this medium could cause ripples of impact that we will not know for a long time. And I've gotten a couple of messages in the back that signal to me that that's happening already. And it's what I wanted. So Walker, thank you, man, for doing this. Everybody else that live streamed with us yesterday and today, thank you for doing it. For everybody that was present, thank you for your time. The implications of what could be have just multiplied for me, and I'm grateful to all of you for helping me experience that.
Well, dude, I think I can speak for everyone who's been watching or who's been on this, is that, dude, you're a rock. You're a rock for all of us. So thank you for putting this together. Thank you for pouring into all of our lives, because I know every single person on here, you've poured into their life. And you've been awesome. You've been super helpful and tremendous for Davis and I's growth, personally, professionally, you name it, dude. Like we go to you for advice because we know that you're always going to be there and that you got the answers, man. If you don't, you're going to find someone that does. And so we appreciate all that you do for us. Again, I think this was incredible. Let's do it again.
We will be having conversations about that, folks. Love you all very much. Walker, you know I love you.
Appreciate
Everybody
you, brother.
else,
Love you
day
too.
1, 2, I love you. Be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace.